Lights out and away we go. There's 2 wide as they come charging down into the corner. Oh my goodness! They're down in a hurry, cycling away from the traffic. Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another round of racing action in the UK Sim Racing Community's GT3-GTP Multiclass League Season 1, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. And today, we are here in Italy for the one and only Monza Grand Prix circuit, as all of our drivers get ready to embark on round number 7 of 10. A symbolic round this, in the fact that it predates what will be our second mid-season break. It is a round where all of our drivers will be looking to obtain victory within their given class in order to carry momentum into the mid-season break and fill themselves up with confidence going into the final 3 rounds of the season. But as we get ready to go racing today, our venue is a classic when it comes to motorsport, and particularly when it comes to power circuits, with a key theme around this Italian circuit being 11 corners separated by 4 extended straights, and within all those 3.6 miles of racing surface, multiple heavy braking zones, a couple of very challenging chicanes thrown into the mix, and also some extended curves, but a need for speed throughout. It's all going to be about top speed and getting to that top speed as soon as possible today, which will be key to victory. But as we get ready to go racing, we welcome you all to this live broadcast from Circuit Side, being brought to you only available on the official UK Sim Racing Twitch channel. And if you go to twitch.tv/UK Sim Racing, we welcome you all there. And hello to you guys and girls in the Twitch chat. Don't be shy, feel free to say hi and let us know how you're doing this fine Sunday evening, and let us know how your weekend's been and who you're cheering on excited for today. But in the commentary with you have myself, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. Now I bring you all your racing action over the course of today, and indeed the entirety of this season. And without further ado, let's take you through that season calendar. And as we can see, we are now nearing the end of the mid portion of the season. It is the 5th of November today. It is Guy Fawkes Day if you're in the United Kingdom, but if you're not inside the United Kingdom, it's a celebration of fireworks here in the UK, and hopefully those won't be coming through on the microphone. But as we get ready to go racing, let's take a look back at where we started. We began all the way back on the 17th of September in the United Kingdom with the the United States of America, I should say, at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Round number 1 saw the battles aplenty, particularly at the front of the field, with a 5-way battle for the GTP Pro win. And in the end, it came down to the finest of margins and strategy. And we also got to see that in the GT3 AM class with a survivor's victory for Matt Edmondson. In round number 2, we made our way to Japan for the Fuji International Speedway, across the Pacific Ocean into the foothills of Mount Fuji, and at the Toyota Lexus Test Circuit on the 24th of September. The momentum continued to charge on forward, and the battles could not be more intense. Whether you were at the front, the mid portion, or the rear of the field, there was plenty to be watched out for, and particularly the battle for the win in the GT3 AM class, going all the way down to the wire. But in the end, it was Satinder Dinsa who held on versus Lawrence Marsh at the checker flag. And then round number 3, we made our way to Belgium for the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, and on the 1st of October, it was a day of Busby brilliance. Paul Busby from Effect Simulations absolutely dominating the 420 car and flying away in the Ardennes Forest. Meanwhile, everybody else further down the field was left to be confounded with his absolutely stellar pace. And then we went into our first mid-season break before returning on the 15th of October for the visits of Watkins Glen International. Round number 4 in the US state of New York got to see a driver's take on the conventional road racing circuit and the mecca of road racing in the US of A, but at the same time the boot course layout playing host to some fantastic battles, particularly when it came into the 5-way fight for the win in the GT3 Pro class. And then in round number 5, we made our way to France to the one and only Le Mans circuit, or the circuit de 24 Hours du Mans, on the 22nd of October. And we got to see there, not just at the front of the field, the battle for the victory between Effect Simulations, Paul Busby, and also Andrew Dawson. But we also got to see further down the field plenty of strategy and also battling in the GTP AM class, where it was Salvatore Guariento who brought home an absolutely emphatic win in the Porsche 963, being the first time we've seen the Porsche 963 take victory this season, and we also got to see further afield the battles in the GT3 class, and they couldn't have been closer. And then last time out at round number 6, we brought it to you as a post-round broadcast for your viewing pleasure. We made our way back to the US of A once again, but to the US state of Florida for the one and only Sebring International Raceway on the 29th of October. We got to see our drivers bump and bounce all over the rugged concrete and asphalt surfaces of the old airfield, the Hendricks Army Base. But the one thing that was key there is there was no guarantee of who was going to be a winner until the checker flag, and it did end up being an absolutely brilliant set of battles throughout the field. But also we got to see the multi-class race in action in its highest form, with many of the narrow road surfaces there at the Sebring International Raceway causing battles to separate or come very rapidly together in a short period of time. But now it's round number 7, and after today we'll have our second mid-season break before a return on the 19th of November for the Red Bull Ring circuit in Austria, and there we'll get to see our drivers take on the mixture of straights and sweeping corners in round 8 to 10, before then making their way back to the United States of America for the 4th and final time this season. It'll be back to the US state of Florida, but for the Daytona International Speedway on the 26th of November, and then we bring it all to a close in the United Kingdom at the one and only Silverstone Grand Prix circuit on the 3rd of December. The home of British motorsport will see us bring the curtain down, but who will be coming home with the crown? That's the big question that's on everybody's lips. Well, as we come on to today then, and let's talk a little bit about the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza Grand Prix layout, which located near the city of Monza in the Lombardy region of Italy. As you can see from the circuit map provided to us by iRacing.com, thank you to them for their wonderful track maps to become part of the brilliant simulator. It is a circuit which is widely considered to be one of the simpler circuits when you go racing on an international stage. However, whilst it looks a simple circuit on paper, I can promise you there's a lot of complexity within this circuit, particularly when it comes to rotating the car through low speed apexes and then get back to full throttle as soon as possible. And every millisecond you spend off a full throttle around here, it is worth tenths, if not half a second by the time you get to the end of the lap. For as our drivers make the way, charging down the start-finish straight in towards turns 1 and 2, they'll make the way into the first chicane, the Prima Variante, and as they go hard on the brakes, then the GT3s will be down from 160 miles an hour plus, and on the GTP somewhere in the region of 170 to 180 as we understand it, and they'll head hard onto the end because they're into the opening chicane. And as they exit their way out of Rettifilo, as it's also known, they'll make the way up through the Curva Bazzano or Curva Grande, the long right-hander at turn number 3, and up into the second chicane, the Seconda Variante or the Regia chicane for the braking zone of turns 4 and 5. We'll sweep there between the two apexes. It's going to be a little bit faster flying as they exit on out before they make the way up towards the second sector of the circuit and into the two Lesbos, starting with Lesbo 1 at turn number 6, a very late blind apex, and then going into turn number 7, a bit of a slower corner by comparison with its sister, but at the same time not to be underestimated. It's a very large apex curve, easily able to cause understeer in the car and send it very wide into the gravel trap. But get it right, they'll then make the way down the Seraglio straight, or the Curva del Seraglio as it's also known, and as they charge their way under the old oval banking of the test circuit, they'll make their way down towards Variante Ascari, or the Ascari chicane that turns 8, 9 and 10, and where it's going to feel like whiplash as our drivers make their way left, right, left through there, looking to carry as much speed as possible out of turn number 9 to go flat out through 10, and well, if they hit the apex curve at 10 too high, they may end up into the gravel or far worse, but they'll be looking to absolutely nail it as they make their way out there flat out and on towards Parabolica curve into the final corner, or Curva Parabolica, and as they head onto the brakes there, brilliant overtaking opportunity before they make the way into the late apex hairpin, only to come sweeping on out and onto the start for this straight to do it all over again. And slipstream is going to be absolutely critical here, both in qualifying and also when we go racing, for the simple reason, unless you're able to break away, you are going to be a battle of the toe all the way from lights out to the checker flag. But now coming on to give you a quick reminder of our rules. We can't go racing without them. Car setup wise, drivers are no longer permitted to change the car as of the conclusion of round number 4, and we haven't got any car changes in effect as a result. Car fuel load shall be restricted to 100% for the GTP class and 70% for the GT3 class, and qualifying wise, an open qualifying format shall be used, which lasts 30 minutes, that's 3-0, and split into 2 equal halves. The first 15 minutes shall be for the GTP class, and then the second 15 minutes shall be for the GT3s, and drivers may not reset to the pit lane during the qualifying session. If they do, they will not be able to take part in qualifying any longer, and that's to try and stay with the theme of a degree of realism here, but they must come into the pit lane if they want to then tow to their pit box and make some changes to the setup of the tyres of the car before going back out. Now to the race itself. The race shall commence by a double file rolling start with a designated green flag start zone, and that is going to be making the way onto the start-finish line today. And when the GTP class begins their race, the GT3 class must hold their formation until the GT3 leader enters the start zone, so that does mean the GT3 leader dictates when the race starts for GT3s and not when the GTPs go. There are no mandatory pit stop requirements in the race, however the fuel loads will mean we're expecting at least one pit stop here today, with each driver having one fast repair available, and all race journeys shall be done post-race, and as we see a driver should receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 23 or more instant points. But that's enough rules, that's enough regulation. Let's go back to our live pictures and take you through that schedule for tonight. Times in Greenwich Mean Time or Universal Coordinate Time, and as we can see, in just over 5 minutes time, we make the way into qualifying, 30 minutes in duration, and well, that track position could prove important in terms of what pack our drivers will be battling in today, but I think qualifying is not going to be as high a priority as some may originally think about it, unless they're worried about instance into turn 1. And indeed, there's no more of a horror story, albeit it was Halloween last weekend, there's no more of a horror story than the infamous phrase Monza turn 1. But we'll have to wait to see where it plays out that way when we go into our race for today. 60 minutes in duration at 8:30. Everybody on the grid then and getting themselves ready to go, and who will be taking the checker flag come the end of it. That's what we're going to find out here today. And as for our conditions, as we can see, 24 degrees ambient temperature currently, 36 degrees track temperature. It is warm out there, and that track surface is coming up in the degrees Celsius quite nicely, and it means we should have a very hot racing surface for our drivers to go racing, and tyre degradation could be important here, particularly when it comes to those rear tyres when you're going through those traction zones and trying to get the power down. But who will be the master or mistress of getting that power down? That's what we're going to have to wait and find out as our drivers get themselves set here, and as they do, well, 4 minutes left on the clock as you see on screen in this final practice session, and we look to Joshua G. Wilson for effect simulations. The Swede making his way in towards turn number 11 here, currently P3 in the GTP Pro class in this practice session, 2.5 tenths off of current provisional driver at the top of the stand of Joe Newman, and we are expecting the Cadillacs to go very strongly today in the prototype class. They have been, based on the current season of balance of performance, they have been the strongest car in terms of straight line speed, as Wilson articulates that by setting the fastest time of 32.005, going at what is 100 faster than Newman, and we do wonder whether they could be holding a little bit back at the moment before they go into qualifying. Indeed, could we see some 31s out there? But then we see it go very, very wrong for Billy Bob Ray, missing a whole chunk of the front of the car there is the Empire Motorsport driver. Not quite sure what's happened there, but hopefully he's able to get that repaired sooner rather than later. That's coming out of Lesbo 1 into Lesbo 2. Also another car, that was Ryan Moles off the circuit. It's a nightmare moment for our GTP AM provisional leader in this practice session. But meanwhile, as we look to our GT3s, here's Anders Mara, the Racing Lab Esports Moser driver, a very fast driver last time out at Sebring, albeit not quite able to take the win of a Heroldus Chutatas. Indeed, right now you can see the two of them there, P1, P2, but Mara on top, Chutatas P2. But the key thing being Anders Mara kept Chutatas honest all the way through to the checker flag. It was a battle just as much on pace as it was strategy at Sebring, and Mara in the BMW M4, the Norwegian, not quite coming out on top versus the Overlimit Racing Lithuanian, but we'll have to wait to see whether the fortunes are reversed today, and we are expecting this BMW M4 to really go keenly here at Monza. It has been touted as well, the straight line beast of the GT3 class, the other being the Mercedes AMG Evo, but we haven't got any of those on the grid, so it does mean the BMW M4 will take up that title. But then again, let's not count out the fact we do have quite a few Ferraris on the grid. Here's one of them, the UK Sim Racing Hill Ferrari 296 GT3, as piloted by James Conley, as the Englishman makes his way down towards turn at number 1. This Ferrari may not have the straight line speed compared to the BMW when it's out there by itself, but when it's in the tow, if it's got the right setup on it, it can prove to be a very quick car in the slipstream. We used to see that with the Ferrari 488 Evo, its predecessor, and we've seen that again, particularly at Watkins Glen in the 296 GT3's favour. And could we see the likes of Conley spring some surprises when they are in the tow, and that tow is going to be ever so important. As all our drivers get themselves set and ready to go. We also do have a couple of, well, in fact we have one new driver on the grid today, and that's going to be in the form of a driver who many of you will know from the GT3 League, and he makes his return to racing as of this round of the GT3-GTP Multi-Class League, and it will be Sam Congreve, who I do believe is currently parked up in the pit lane, and there you can see the Empire Motorsport number 9 car parked up. The Briton will be piloting it today, and he's going to be running the BMW M8 Hybrid in the GTP Pro Class, and we eagerly look forward to seeing how Sam gets on here, as we were always happy to see Sam on the grid. Indeed, Empire Motorsport, a very proud team, and Sam a major member of the team there, and we'll wish him all the best of luck for today. But as he gets himself set, and meanwhile we look to Sam at Sherwood, we could see the battle of the two Sams potentially. They're not too far off of one another in terms of pace from what I'm hearing over the course of the week, but as we do see the Protect Motorsport driver making his way out of turn number 6 there at the Lesbo 1, tucked in behind Daryl Norquette for a brief moment. Well, Daryl Norquette, really the driver who sprung a lot of excitement last time out, is brilliant at battling with Alexander Truno Mikkelsen at Sebring, and Norquette was the faster driver, but Truno Mikkelsen definitely shown that at Sebring, if you know how wide your car is and how wide you can make it, and when you can legally put the car in terms of battling and overtaking, that's exactly how you can keep a driver behind. And Norquette forced to stay behind for the best part of 20 minutes when Norcat had top 5 pace, but in the end was forced to finish outside the top 5 due to Tremina McAllison's absolutely meticulous defending. And could we see a bit more of that today, or will it be more about the toe? And my gut feeling says the slipstream around here definitely may put the battling on a different kind of balance by comparison. But as we look to Steinar, Sony, the Race Lab Esports car X driver had a difficult time at Sebring last time out, making his way up towards the Regia chicane. Checker flag comes out in this final practice session. We are ready to go racing, ladies and gentlemen. And well, qualifying coming up very shortly. It's going to be 30 minutes to split into 2 equal halves, 15 minutes of GTPs, 15 minutes of GT3s. But who will be on pole by the end of it? Let's find out. So as qualifying gets underway, it's time for the GTP qualifying session, and well, already we're going to hear the sound of a combination of 6-cylinder and 8-cylinder engine roaring its way out of the pit lane. Those Cadillacs absolutely stellar in terms of noise coming from them. And as Alex Hill makes his way out, the TE Supersport called that Acura by comparison, the 6-cylinder machine, as brought to you by Honda Power Dynamics, as he makes his way up towards turn number 1 here with the TE Supersport corporate driver. When we interviewed him last time out at the end of Sebring, talking about the fact it feels like it's going to be a different style of race here today. The Acura naturally being down to a degree in terms of straight line speed compared to the Cadillacs. Therefore, it's going to have to be a bit more of a tactical or strategic race if we are going to see the Acuras up the front. But then again, the one thing we do know about Alex and Tiki Supersport is that they haven't got the pace necessarily on a single lap. They definitely find a way to make some magic happen on the strategy. And Alex really has been the man to articulate how important consistency and strategy are hand in hand, in the fact that even when he's qualified well outside the top 5 in the GTP class, he has had a knack for delivering top 5s like no other this season, and is absolutely important. And another Acura driver who also right now has a degree of consistency going on his side, and that is this man, Austin William Campbell, who after 2 drop scores are now accounted for. He is your GTP Pro Championship leader by 4 points over Joshua Wilson. But do keep in mind we have quite a few drivers who do have their drop scores already started to be played into effect compared to other drivers who may not. And when we say that in terms of some drivers have 0 scores in their drop scores, others have more significant drop scores by comparison, and therefore when it puts together, it leads to a bit of a scattered picture at the moment. But the one thing that is clear in all of the confusion of information is that Austin William Campbell is the man to currently be. And whilst he necessarily has not been the fastest driver out there compared to the likes of Effect Simulations with Paul Busby in certain circumstances, or Andrew Dawson as we saw last time out of Sebring with his dominant run, at the same time it's all well and good having that pace, but you've got to be able to consistently deliver it race after race, and that's why Austin William Campbell is your championship leader. As he heads onto his first flying lap, we look to a Porsche 963 that needs no introduction. It's running that wonderful Rothmans livery. It is powered by Mural.io. It is Salvatore Guariento, and as he makes his way in the 210 into Ascari right now, warming up, shaking the tyres from side to side and the whole chassis, and as he makes his way through turn number 10, getting himself set up for his first flying lap, trying to find himself a bit of space to the GTP in front of him as well. I'm not quite sure who that's being piloted at the moment. We are just trying to discern the door number, but as they make their way down towards the braking zone, that's number 765, and that will mean that is the car that is being piloted by none other than Ollie Pimley. And right now Guariento trying to give to a bit of distance now. I think feeling as though he's a bit faster than Pimley, and he'll try and catch up to Pimley on the second half of the lap. But we do have to run down Seraglio and up towards Parabolica, and therefore he'll get the distant toe that could aid his lap. Remember, the winner at Le Mans, not quite the championship leader at this time, but he is currently in what is P2, and it's David Larson who holds on to that championship lead. And here is David Larson, the Civic Esports driver, making his way down in towards turn number 1, hard on the brakes here in the Acura. And well, we do know that Larson's absolutely a brilliant drive at Sebring, despite all of the adversity and misfortune. Saw him bring on home what was the 2nd place finish when he was on course for the win, but late spin cost him very dear. But still, at the same time, for Larson, he's picked himself back up, he's ready to go once again, and as he makes his way through turn number 3, get himself very comfortably set now to go on the attack. As he heads down into the braking zone for Regia, Austin William Campbell puts the first lap time on the board there of 32.613 in terms of the first one to be, calling the car off immediately. Do keep in mind, of course, that our drivers will have normally on the batteries of these prototype cars only 1, perhaps 2 laps as they push it to be able to really go on the offensive before they need to put the battery into the full recharge mode. And therefore it does mean for our drivers, you've got to pick the right time to deliver the lap. You can't just simply keep going on attack all the way around in this prototype qualifying session, because in doing so you'll drain the battery and you'll drain away your effective performance time. But meanwhile, as we look to Joe Newman, setting a higher level of time here of 32.079. We are already starting to inch towards what will be those high 31s. We are expecting pole here today to be in the region of 31.9, particularly if somebody absolutely stables themselves to the slipstream of another car, particularly if they work with a teammate, and as he makes his way on through where's Lesbo 1. Well, right now, Joe Newman, he may be a clear air, but it does look as though for all of that clear air, it's not holding him back from delivering some absolutely scintillated pace as he makes his way through Lesbo 2. And Joe Newman, really one of those drivers who's touted to be watched out for over the course of this season, and the reason being he has sprung some absolutely brilliant surprise in the season opener at Indianapolis. Brilliant batting from Newman late on in the day, and we have seen it time and time again, and the Empire Motorsport driver not to be counted out when it comes to trying to go for wins. He makes his way on and down. We do say hello to Adrian at the Great there, who subscribes with Prime. We really do appreciate that, Adrian. Saying the poor Porsches here, and I do believe that may be in reference, and I do believe that's Adrian Kukulas in the Twitch chat, and that may be in reference to the GT3 Porsches. We'll talk a little bit more about that in due course. Does Newman head to the line, keeping nice and close to the inside wall? Does he go even faster? He does. It's a 31.989. It's the first 31 of the day, and can anybody respond? Well, let's jump aboard here with Darren Norquette as he heads on into the pit lane. Well, he's deciding to come in like a lot of drivers here. I think that will be some fuel, and also to recharge the battery as it's getting very crowded down that pit lane as he makes his way on down. We'll very shortly bring you on board with one of our drivers, but meanwhile Aaron Beaver heads across the line here and heading up towards turn number 1. He goes, he sets P4, then the GTP AM Plus of 35.264 as he heads on through and in towards the braking zone. Well, right now for Beaver, I think he'll feel as though there's a bit more time out there. Perhaps it's more of a sighting lap there, just trying to get a feel for where the car is. He's not quite on the pace here. We're seeing in the Cadillac at this moment. The B-Series machine will continue to roar there under his capable hands. He makes his way through turn number 3 once again. Drivers yet to get a time on the board include David Larson, albeit I think he's going to correct that very shortly as he stays over to the right, shortening the run to the timeline. He goes P3 in GTP AM on a 33.688. Not a bad lap there by any means, but a sizable, almost 8/10 gap between Guariento and Pimley from Larson there. So it does look as though we have a top 2 that's starting to break away. But interestingly, Guariento putting the pole lap in the Porsche 963, and then it's the Cadillac of Pimley. We'll have to wait and see it with the shoes on the other foot by the end of the session. But right now, Guariento really trying to stretch the legs of that Porsche as only he knows best to be able to do so. But meanwhile, as more drivers make their way on through to try and complete laps, Billy Bob Ray, the Empire Motorsport driver in the number 55, coming out of turn number 2. And right now, no time on the board, currently on an out lap as he makes his way through turn number 3, and as he goes all the way on around there, and then up towards turns 4 and 5, we do see it and say hello to Sir Bottlejob in the Twitch chat, who continues the conversation about GT3s that may not be on the pace here at Monza, saying that he's even more washed in the Audi wash there being the term in terms of not being on the pace there, albeit a bit of an informal colloquial term for those who are not aware of it. And as he makes his way on through turn at number 6 here, well, right now Billy Bob Ray is definitely not washed by comparison. Indeed, he's a stalwart battling at 4 top 5s, if not podiums in the GTP AM class, and we always love to see him out there, did we, the Scotsman, as he makes his way down, running the blue and white colours there, I think in tribute to the Scottish flag, just as much the Empire Motorsport team, wonderful livery on the car as well, as he heads up towards turns 8, 9 and 10, going on to the brakes here. Well, right now, we'll very shortly get an on-board lap with him, as meanwhile Ollie Pimley's just made his way out of the pit lane as well, already up towards the Regia chicane, so Pimley's getting ready to go. Ray makes his way on down here. Again, it's all about being bold on the brakes at Monza and being able to return to full throttle as soon as possible, and that's how you get the best lap time here. But as we can see Ray back in the car up here, trying to get as much battery recharge as he comes on through, and as he now makes his way through the final corner, now building up the throttle, and here he goes, ladies and gentlemen, full battery deployment. It's time for a flying lap, and we're on board for it with Billy Bob Ray. He makes his way across the start finish line. Keep an eye on that bottom right corner of your screen. You'll see how much speed he's starting to build up towards as he heads all the way down towards turn number 1. And in fact there, I believe, back in the car off quite early, so Ray aboard in this lap as he started to go onto it as he comes down to the braking zone. So Ray making his way on through there. Alternatively, something's not right on the car because he's not reaching 7th gear as he makes his way on out. So I think we might have to jump away from this lap for the time being. In fact, Ray going for another warm-up lap rather than going on to the lap there, so a bit of a miscall on our part, but as he gets himself set up for the next lap, meanwhile, Sam Congreve makes his way out the pit lane, and the man who's new on the grid today gets himself set up. He's currently P4, he's 4.5 tenths off of Newman's pole time, so it's currently an Empire Motorsport 1-4 in the GTP Pro class. looking good for the team right now, and I think Congreve will be very happy to initially be there as he makes his way through turn number 3, going on through the long right-hander of Curva Grande, getting set and ready to go on the offensive. Meanwhile, Darryl Norquette trying to find a bit more time out there as he comes to the end of another flying lap. What can he do this time around? He's currently P11, 2.5 seconds off the pole, goes up to P10, halves the deficit now to 1.2 seconds on a 33.233, but still not quite on the pace compared to his peers. But it's interesting to see how from P10 through to P7 of Davies, it's only what is half a second there, and that half a second can be made a loss on a single restraint. So therefore, it could just be that Norquette not having the best of runs out the corners right now. But meanwhile, Salvatore Goriento doing a little bit of bobbing and weaving, indeed making his way past Billy Bob Ray there as he heads on down, and in to the right-hander he goes, and as he does so, Goriento going on another attack lap here as he makes his way through, and we're going to jump aboard with Goriento as he comes on around to go onto a flying lap of Monza and see if he can go even faster than that 32.898. This is the Porsche 963 roars its way up towards turn number 1, heading upwards of 180 miles an hour already. Still got a third of the straight to go. It's going to be 191 miles an hour when he brakes at the 150 meter board all the way down the first gear, mounting the curbs he comes on through, clipping the sausage there at turn number 2 as he makes his way on through now back to full throttle, staying over to the right hand side here, hook the car into the apex of turn number 3. Full commitment here, light as possible steering lock as well in order to avoid scrubbing off any speed, and as he brings the car into the right hand side here for the rear chicane, braking at the end of the safety round, braking at 100 meter board all the way down the second gear, straight line between the two apexes, going up into 2 wheels for a brief moment, and now in towards turn number 6. Now going into the Lesmo 1, braking about 75 meters from corner apex, nice and tight there as he exits out. Now keeping the car nice, go to the left hand side here and brake at the 50 meter board, down to 3rd gear for Lesmo 2, absolutely attacking it there. This car is hooked up as he makes his way on through the kink and down towards Ascari and building up the speed here, heading upwards into 7th gear, looking to his right hand side for his brake mark for turn number 8, and as he does so, it's 100 meters from corner apex, down to 4th gear, hits the curve very sharp. You can see it unsettles the car as he battles with the steering wheel there against power oversteer, and as he comes out of turn number 10, not the smoothest of runs through Ascari, but still keeps it together. He's gone purple in subsector 3, but weaving from side to side. He's not happy with this lap, and he's calling the car down to get ready to go again as Goriento backs it off early here, going into Parabolica, braking about 50 meters earlier than he would at the 100 meter board, and gets ready to go again. So a compromise lap to complete it, but Goriento there definitely showing he's going on full attack all the way round, and as he goes on to another lap, meanwhile Morva drive starting to make the way on through here. And what will be another set of flying laps. Meanwhile, one driver who is on an outlap currently is Cy Anthony, and I had the opportunity to catch up with Cy Anthony in the build-up to tonight and asked him how he was feeling for Monza, and he was very excited for it as he gets it a bit wrong there going on through was the reduced chicane. Got to be very careful of hitting those runoff curves there. They're there for safety reasons to try and slow the cars down and get the drivers not to straight line on, but instead take the escape road that runs all the way around the chicane. But as we have seen in recent years of motorsport, hit those curves too hard at the wrong angle, particularly when you're in a very low ride height car such as these prototypes, they can actually launch the car into the sky. Indeed, we have seen that in a few lower Formula category races in previous years, and it's led to a bit of a revision of how those curves work in practice. But meanwhile, coming back to Cy Anthony as he makes his way on through Ascari and coming on through to get ready to go on to a flying lap. He was saying to the fact he's also looking forward to the challenge here, not just lap 1, turn 1 into the opening chicane, but also the challenge of negotiating the traffic and feel that will be tricky, particularly if he catches up some of that traffic in the middle of a chicane. But we look forward to seeing how he gets on and whether he can stay in the fight at the top of the table. That's his target in terms of getting a good result here to keep himself well in the hunt of the top 5 as he makes his way on to Destiny here, going across that timeline. Now a flying lap on the board. He will get one more after this one, given the time remaining at only 2.5 minutes on the clock. And I can tell you, some of our GT3 drivers now started to make their way to their cars as Anthony heads down into the braking zone here for turn number 1. And well, the car not looking violent at all there as he makes his way on through, and indeed a smooth lap is good to success at any circuit, even here at Monza, as he comes out of 2 and on through the kink. But as he does so, coming through the long right-hand kink of what is Curva Grande, or the long curve if you will, at turn number 3, and heading underneath the billboard here, and again you see at the distance, and then Sunny Bush, there the car goes, and it's the speed that they carry into these braking zones, which is absolutely staggering, let alone the GT3s, more so the prototypes, but as he heads on through. Meanwhile, we do look to Joe Newman, as we do have a new overall pole time, we should point out, whilst we've been talking about Cy Anthony and observing him in the form of Andrew Dawson. Wilson on a 31.660. That's 2.5 tenths faster than what anybody else has been able to achieve, including second place man Paul Busby. So it's looking as though it could be in effect simulations 1-2 currently, as Newman here shaking the car from side to side. And I think with that, metaphorically, shaking his head from side to side as he's hearing our words right now to say it's not going to be in effect simulations 1-2 for much longer if I can help it. And as he comes on through turn number 11, making his way on out here goes Joe Newman for his final attack lap of this qualifying session. And we jump aboard with a Cadillac driver as he heads down towards turn number 1. So here it is going to be full attack. If he gets it wrong at this point, well, it was worth venturing it as he heads down towards the braking zone. 193 miles an hour at the braking zone as he goes onto the anchors as sharp as possible. First gear as he collects the two apexes together, takes a lot of sausage curve there, gets the throttle in as well to help stabilise the car, and now making his way up through the gearbox here, up into 5th gear, up into 6th very shortly, hitting 6th gear, 158 miles an hour, seamless transmission switch as he goes on through and in towards turns 4 and 5. You know, it's his right hand side here and hard on the brakes all the way down to 2nd gear, absolutely mounting the turn 4 apex curve. They use it to rotate the car on the lift, and as he goes in towards the first of 2 Lesbos here, he's got a bit of traffic in front of him. Will that hurt him, or will he be able to clear it appropriately, or will it aid him? In fact, he comes up towards Lesmo 2, it's going to aid him, he's going to get a bit of a draft coming out of Lesmo 2, and if he can get close and past whoever it is in front of him, can't quite discern it at the moment, and he's going to feel like he can pick up a lot more speed as he does make his way on past there. So Newman right now may be on course for an even fast lap here as he goes onto the brakes, 100 metres from Ascari down to 4th gear, coming on through there. We saw Guariento get it very, very wrong coming on through here. Newman meanwhile getting it absolutely right, looking as though he's taking a completely different set of corners compared to the relative on boards, and as he makes his way down towards turn number 11, one more quarter to go here as Ryan Davis on camera improves to 32.639, puts him P9 in GTP Pro. Newman comes on through parabolic curve, using the track limits as much as possible. It brings the car into the right. It's not been improving that for the most part, however, or has it, as he comes to the timeline. What's it going to be from Newman? It is going to be, it's not enough. It's a 32.055. Newman will not improve, and well, you can understand that he may be a little bit frustrated, but it does mean unless anybody springs a late surprise here, it is going to be an effect simulations 1-2 of Andrew Dawson ahead of Paul Busby, with Joe Newman Brendan Fontaine at 1-2-3 as he'll be joined on the second row by Joshua Wilson, who will start P4. Let's hold our breath for a brief moment, ladies and gents. We could still have a magical lap come from either Darryl Norquette or alternatively Austin William Campbell as they both make their way through the final corners. GT3 qualifying session about to get underway. They are already out on circuit, the GT3s, we should point out. And as we do see here, Norquette make his way through. He comes into the pit lane. He's not happy with how that lap's gone. And meanwhile, Austin William Campbell also into the pits. We do also have out there at the moment, one is Billy Borre, who's yet to get a time on the board, it should be pointed out. So he'll be starting from the back of the GTP class if things do not work out. But as he makes his way through the right-hander on Parabolica, can he get a lap on the board? And if so, how high will it be? Well, there's 7 GTPs here. He's currently P7 of them all. But as he crosses the line, it's going to be P6 for him on a 34.487. Puts himself ahead of Aaron Beaver. So for Billy Bob Ray, it's a last gasp, but he gets the job done there. And meanwhile, now we're over to GT3 qualifying territory. And as we can see here, everybody queuing up in long line formation, getting ready to go onto their first line lap. But Harold Shatatas, the first driver in the GT3 to go onto a qualifying lap. And well, we did see in the chat a little bit earlier on a mention or two in the Twitch chat about the GT3s, and particularly the Porsche and also the Audi. And let's talk a little bit about the potential form here today of the GT3s. Whereas in the GTP class, we did see the Cadillacs. We talked about the fact that Cadillacs are normally archetyped as one of the fastest cars in a straight line, and therefore should go very well at power circuit. You know, the likes of the Acura and also the Porsche, perhaps not as strong. The BMW a bit of a midfielder in that pack by comparison with them. But meanwhile, in the GT3 class, the Porsche 992 has been the handling car all season. But the challenge with the Porsche is when it comes to straight line circuits, it doesn't quite have the top end, or in order to get that top end, you have to run the lowest possible rear wing compared to some cars we can get away with a little bit more rear wing by comparison, albeit most of the drivers will be running minimum downforce today in terms of that amount of rear wing on the car in order to be able to get that top end speed. And Jotatas right now, you can see that delta between himself and was the Tiki Simsport Ferrari behind, and that Ferrari being, I do believe, Joshua Pratt is absolutely hugging the rear of Jotatas' car. But the problem for Pratt here is that he's got too close to Jotatas too soon in this qualifying lap, and therefore right now he's being impeded effectively You may be asking, okay, so why does Joe Tartas not move aside? Well, the thing is that Joe Tartas is on a valid flying lap, and in qualifying, when you're on a valid lap and you are ahead of another car, it is you who has the right of way, and it is the car behind's responsibility to either back off or find a way to negotiate you without impeding you. And therefore, if they do impede you when you're on a flying lap, you can take them to the steward's room and essentially protest it. And that's why Pratt's had to back off here. He's made the wrong call in terms of how soon he's launched the lap. And Joe Tartas right now, I think by being the first driver out there to get a lap on the board, it will be a lap that's not going to be quite on the pace by comparison with some of his rivals, particularly given the fact he's got the absence of slipstream. But it will mean he'll put down a banker, and it will be a marker of his pace. And well, if his eagle-eyed rivals are going to be keeping an eye out for it, they may read into it. So Joe Tartas sets a 49.022. Now, who's going to be able to respond to that, and how far can they go? Well, Marvin Cruz goes a bit fast there, but Kukulas goes even faster, as we do see Adrian Kukulas there in the Porsche 992. The 917 tucked in behind the number 5 of what is Mark Kolokov. But all these Porsche drivers in a tow, all trying to work together as the Porsche drivers seem to struggle on here as a group. But meanwhile, Ferrari driver Eric Rose have a 47 there, a 47.69, and his Meyer 47.55. And you could already see from Kukulas to Rose, if that's half a second, and then Meyer goes even faster by 1.5 tenths almost in the BMW M4. And that's why we're saying the BMW M4 is the car to watch here today. It should on paper be the car that puts the pole position together in the GT3 class, given its relative straight line speed. But then again, it's also just as much down to the driver as it is the car and the setup they've got on the car. It's not an automatic you're going to take pole position if you're in the BMW, so we'll have to wait and see whether Myra does face a little bit of counter-attack from any of his rivals, and if so, who can potentially upset the expectations here. As meanwhile, Jack Parker in at the the Audi R8 GT3, making its way down towards turn 1. He's just put a lap on the board in the form of what was the 49.05 in this Audi R8, in a similar vein to the Porsche, more of a handling car, albeit that V10 engine does roar proudly, and it can be known to go quite fast on the straights, albeit not in 6th gear. That's its weakness in this car. It does lose a lot of acceleration in top gear, but also some great news coming the way of Audi on the iRacing recently, in the fact that we are expecting the Audi R8 Evo 2 edition to be arriving as of 2024, I believe early 2024, unless I'm very much mistaken. Don't quote me on that. And we're currently looking at the original R8 from 2015, the original R8 LMS here, still holding its own and being piloted by none other than the Briton at Barker. As he goes a bit wide, coming out of Lesbo 1, carrying a bit too much speed there, but he brings it back together. Meanwhile, we look to Casper Brotner as Kukulas goes a bit faster in the GT3 Pro class at 48.102. But again, drivers now starting to queue up here and all trying to stay together. And it's interesting as well how in the prototype qualifying session we actually saw our drivers spread out to a significant degree, given the fact in the prototypes the speeds they close on one another. If you're in the tow, you need to try and coordinate it with a driver, preferably a teammate, whereas around here I think everyone's a lot more comfortable running together, given the relative pace of the GT3s versus one another, and therefore not as many having reservations about running in the metaphorical slipstream train. And also one thing to spot here outside of pace, something which may give them a 5% motivation or confidence boost here. Old duty cars, including Marvin Cruz, we see him make his way out of the second chicane there. Regia running a new livery today, running a black version of the livery. We've previously seen them in with the all-white version, but here sporting a new version today. A lovely livery on the car, I must say, in contrast with the old duty cars logo. Definitely something to be proud of as they make their way out onto Seraglio. But he does so here, Cruz running P8 to the GT3 Pro class, and meanwhile, he makes his way underneath the bridges and up towards Ascari. Well, the Porsche will be absolutely flying through the Ascari. There's no doubt about that. If you're looking for the car here that will carry all the speed on through, it is the Porsche 992. But then again, when it comes out to it, it needs to carry at least 2 or 3 miles an hour more speed in order to feel comfortable onto this run of the final stretch up towards Parabolica. And you can see a little bit further in the picture there the ever-looming presence of one Ferrari 296. And it's being piloted by Nicholas Rice, your provisional pole sits in the GT3 AM class currently on a 48.058. And Rice right now, I think, feeling as though this could be a huge upturn after what was a brilliant performance at Sebring. Rice really coming to a form of his own right now as he makes his way on through Parabolica. I think coming into the pits here, following the pack on in, everyone going for as little as possible fuel, perhaps good enough for an out lap plus 1 flying lap or 2 flying laps. And putting a new set of tyres on as well, with 7 minutes left in this qualifying section or thereabouts. We say hello to Billy Bob Ray, or Billy Bob 55 in the Twitch chat, who says good evening, recovering from surgery on Monday. They're hoping to stay out of trouble and score vital points, and that's great to hear, Billy Bob. And well, I hope it all went well with regards to the surgery, and we're very happy to see you on the grid. Even if you're not quite on the pace you'd like to be, still I think you deserve a round of applause for the fact just being there is a testament to your motivation, and something many will draw inspiration from, myself included. But as we we do see here James Conley making his way on through Ascari, chasing after the Rexy machine there, the number 3 being piloted by none other than Thomas Barjuk. But right now James Conley stepping closer rather rapidly to the back of the Porsche. He'll be grateful for the tow here. It's going to even assist the Ferrari more, albeit the Ferrari already does have a bit of straight line speed, but as we said, when you put this car in the tow, it really does gain a lot of top end as he makes his way out of the final corner. What's it going to be this time? Barjuk's on for a better lap, it must be said. Conley, however, is going to improve right at the end of the lap, so Thomas Barjuk comes across line, improves to stays P10, meanwhile Conley improves to P4 there at the 48.686, gets ahead of Steinar Sani. And we'll speak of Steinar Sani, here is the Racing Lab Esports driver in the BMW M4, and Sani right now currently 6.5 tenths off of the pole lap, set by Nicholas Rice, who's on an out lap. I think Sani will be feeling as though there's still time to play with here, and therefore he can leave it all to the last minute if he needs to, if he wants to go for the ultimate pole time, because that's where the track will be in its best possible condition. As you can see on the right hand side of your screen here, in terms of conditions now, ambient temperature is in fact rising a little bit now to 25 degrees centigrade, but interestingly track temperature has dipped slightly with some cloud coming over the circuit, and that will affect track temperature in the fact that when you do have the clouds come over, you do normally end up with a little bit of effect where there's not as much heating anymore. Whilst ambient temperature could be increasing due to the relative time of day, if the sun's not shining down on the entire circuit, then we patch the circuit which is significantly cooler by comparison. And right now that 34 degrees centigrade track temperature will just give a little bit more comfort to the tyres, particularly if drivers are going for multiple laps on a single tank of fuel and with a single set of tyres. They'll feel as though they can really push those tyres a little bit further, and also we will see the lap times come down as that track temperature comes down slightly. It may be worth a tenth or two here, and that's why you want to be out circuit to the very end of the session if you can be, particularly when that track temperature is falling away. Meanwhile, speaking of a man right now who's not falling away, he's fighting his way up to the top. It's Eric Rosehead. Well, a 47.501. He sets the original pole time now for the GT3 Pro class. That's by just shy of half a tenth over Harold Chitatas. But we can see that Ferrari, Porsche, then BMW in that top 3, before it's then Ferrari, Porsche, Porsche, Ferrari. So we do have quite the mixture of manufacturers in the GT3 Pro class up inside that top 5. And well, as Rosehead makes his way on through Curva Grande, really needing to arrest what has been a muddling season so far. The number of absences due to the fact that he and a number of his teammates at Racing Lab Esports have been competing in the Norwegian national finals, and they've been doing a fantastic job from what I hear. And right now really having to try and stamp his authority back in this championship, running the number 1 door number, of course, in reference to his status as defending elite champion in the UK Sim Racing GT3 League at season 11, if my memory serves me correctly, not 12. We haven't quite got to that number yet, but as he makes his way out of the corner, meanwhile that's Chitatas getting it wrong, coming out of Lesmo 2, just pushing a bit too hard, and the car coming loose on the rear end now, having to wait for drivers to come through. And well, he does have Nicholas Rice there, and Steinar saying he's got it wrong. Rice flashed his lights to say thank you very much, I'm coming on through now, but in the end Chitatas is able to get the car back on the circuit. He will recover it, but that's going to cost him a lot of time. He's got 4 minutes left on the clock, so he'll still have at least one more lap in which to try and set a better time and potentially go for pole. I think they're just carrying a bit too much speed and eagerness on the throttle pedal coming out of Lesmo 2, and it's so easy to make that mistake when these guys are running very little rear wing on the car. Indeed, there's very little to keep that rear settled, but that's the gambit you've got to go for if you want to take pole at Monza. You have to sacrifice all the downforce here for the speed if you want to be able to go all in. But as we do see him making his way on through, meanwhile we look to Christopher Bates in the very colourful liveried machine here in the number 35, as we do see the Porsche 992 driver making his way up towards what will be Ascari very shortly. He heads into the braking zone here. Anders Morris is a new overall pole time in the GT3 Pro class of 47.307. An absolutely phenomenal lap there, 2 tenths faster than Eric Rose this time, so those lap times continue to come down towards the low 47s. Meanwhile, GT3 and pole still at 48.058 in the hands of Nicholas Rice. These drivers head on around. Meanwhile, Matt Edmondson makes his way out of Ascari in the Ferrari 296, and Edmondson currently P3 in the class. And what has been a recent dip of form for Edmondson, indeed the number of drivers who proved to be very strong at the start of the season had difficulty, but Edmondson on an out lap, getting ready to go onto a flying lap here, and we're definitely looking to be back on form today. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to jump on board with Matt Edmondson as we follow him around for a lap of the Monza circuit in the GT3. He heads up towards turn number 1, then keeping the car into the right side and shortening the run down towards turn number 1 as he builds up the speed now, gradually negotiating the car over to left. You can see it in the bottom right corner of your screen, heading up to 160 miles an hour into top gear now. Giving his brake mark at the 150 meter ball, braking down from 163 miles an hour all the way down to first gear, I should say, as he makes his way through turns 1 and 2. A bit of apex curve there, too much perhaps at turn 2, over-rotating the car, and he gets it settled back down, but short shifting now, and I think that will have been track limit for riding over the turn 2 curve as high as he did, so Edmondson will get one more shot at this. But I think right now, and to save some fuel, I think he felt as though he only had fuel for one lap, and now he's got to try and renegotiate this lap. Meanwhile, Eric Rosev comes on through the final corner here, and as he does so, he goes into the pit lane. Rosev decides that's his qualifying session done and dusted, so that'll be all we see from Eric Rosev. And meanwhile, Nicholas Rice comes on through, and Rice making his way out of the final corner, keeping it literally just within a hair's width of track limits there as he comes out of the final corner, and as he crosses the line, what's it going to be from Rice? It's a 48.0 to be of his own doing. It's a 47.902 now, and that puts him with 3 cars ahead of Steinar Sani, with the fact he's got 3 throws of Kukulas, Moles and Brotner between him. And well, meanwhile, where's Ryan Moles? So you may be asking, well, here is Ryan Moles as he comes on through the final corner to go on to what will be his final flying lap in his qualifying session. As he comes on out, we jump on board here with Ryan Moles for a flying lap in the Porsche 992 with a 6-cylinder engine. He heads across the timeline and goes down towards turn at number 1. This is going to be a lap. If he's going to put himself inside the top 5 of the GT3 Pro class, he's got to give it everything. And up towards the braking zone here at 163 miles an hour. He brakes his wound down and all the way down to first gear, making his way from right into left. And as he avoids that sausage curve there at turn number 2, now bringing himself back up to speed in the Porsche. Very quick in the low gears from second through to full. But now as it heads into 5th gear, this is where you're going to see the Porsche starts to lose out. Albeit Moles running similar top end speed compared to Edmondson's, I think really sacrificing any rear wing on this car as he makes his way in towards turn number 4. Onto the brakes once again, just before the 100 board, about 120 meters from corner apex. Goes a little bit deep over the turn 4 apex there. You notice it unsettled his line into 5. That's cost him some time, and Moles immediately backs out there, knowing his delta is down and he can't improve any further. So that frustrating moment for Ryan Moles, it must be said. But that's the thing, when you're having to push as hard as this, it's not going to be easy for anybody out there. And well, now for those who are out there, Marvin Cruz coming to the line. What's he going to be able to do here as he crosses the line? It's going to be a 49.314, does not improve on previous best. Meanwhile, we do also have Mark Johnson coming around, the man who was once the Mercedes advocate, now in the Porsche for this season, as he comes to the timing line down from P9. Can he go further up the order? No, he cannot. He'll stay at P9 in the GT3 AM class. We've also got Adrian Kukulas, who has set a purple opening subsector, so that would have been the run on through and out of turns 1 and 2 up towards Curva Grande. And will as Kukulas comes across the line, is it going to be an improvement here? He crossed the line and it's going to go from P6 to P5, and then he does improve by 10th. It's a 47.908. Meanwhile, just behind him, Casper Brotner crosses the line and he does not improve. In the end stays P6, so doesn't able to get back versus Kukulas. Meanwhile, we also do have Jack Barker coming to line. He's currently P8 in the GT3M class. Brings the car over there, being his over a bit more speed. And as he comes to the timeline, it's going to be P7 in the end. But meanwhile, Thomas Aspel, who's not got a lap on the board, last lap of the day, and it's a 49.539. It's a lap that's registered, but it is currently one of the weakest laps out there in terms of pace. And well, for Thomas Aspel, it has not worked out there. That puts him at the bottom of the GT3 Pro class, and it puts him at the bottom of all the GT3 drivers who've got a lap on the board. The only driver who's not got a lap on the board is Lawrence Marsh, and he will be starting at 45th of 45th of all our drivers, as we do see Marvin Cruz here on a cool-down lap right now. In fact, I think he may actually be on a valid lap there, so do please excuse my confusion as he makes his way in towards turn number 11, and then he comes onto the brakes here, which not been an improvement lap so far. He's currently P8. Can he improve further? I don't think he's going to be able to here, and it will mean that'll be qualifying coming to a halt as Cruz comes into the pit lane. So in the end, in the GTP class, it's Andrew Dawson who takes pole position overall, and in the Pro category, with Salvatore Guariento taking GTP and pole position on what will be P12 overall. Meanwhile, in the GT3 Pro class and overall GT3, it will be Anders Meyer who takes pole position in the BMW M4. He'll be starting P22 on the grid, and the GT3 AM class, it's Nicholas Rice who'll be starting P26 overall, but he is your GT3 AM pole sitter in a phenomenal lap. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to head to the grid, and this is how they're going to line up for our 7th round of the season. It is Andrew Dawson who takes pole position here at Monza in the GTP Overall and GTP Pro category. Alongside the Effect Simulations Club Sport driver on the front row will be sister team driver for Effect Simulations, Paul Busby. And then on row number 2, it's Joe Newman for Empire Motorsport, joined on the second row by Effect Simulations Joshua G. Wilson. Newman putting himself in there to spoil the 1, 2, 3 of Effect Simulations. Sam Congreve, the newcomer for today for Empire Motorsport, starts P5, and he's joined on the third row by Austin William Campbell for Symphony Esports, the championship leader. And then Cy Anthony at P7, the privateer, joined on the fourth row by Sam Sherwood for ProTech Motorsport, with the top 10 being completed by Ryan Davis for Tiki Simsport and Alex Hill for Tiki Simsport Corpa. Keep your eyes out for the pair of them. They're going to try and work some magic on strategy, I can guarantee it. Ben Cullen starts best to P11 for Effect Simulations, setting his weakest qualifying performance of the season, and he is joined on the 6th row of the grid by the pole sitter of the GTP AM category, and that is Salvatore Guariento for Mural.io. Then on row number 7, it's Ollie Pimley for DY13 Racing, just missing out on GTP AM pole, very close between him and Guariento, and we expect that's going to be a battle into turn number 1 between them, with Jonathan Hitchens starting P14 alongside on the 7th row for Symphony Esports. On row number 8, it's Alexander Trino McCallison from Racing Up Esports Monza, who's joined by Rudy Avitsland for Racing Up Esports KTM, and on row number 9, it's Darren Norquette for Racing Forces, joined by Symphony Esports David Lawson, with the top 20 being completed by Rob Armstrong for UK Sim Racing Bell, and what is there? Billy Bob Ray for Empire Motorsport. Then on row number 11, it'll be the last of your GTP qualifiers. Aaron Beaver starts P21 for UK Sim Racing Bell, and then you'll have your GT3 Overall and Pro pole sitter Anders Meyer for Racing Lab Esports Moser. Well done to him for taking his first pole position of the season. Eric Rosev lines up P23 for Racing Lab Esports KTM, joined on the 12th row of the grid by Herodas Jatatas, the GT3 Pro championship leader for Over Limit Racing. And then we have behind them on row number 13 will be Joshua Pratt for Tiki Simsport and Nicholas Rice, your GT3 and pole sitter for Dirty Rice Racing. This could be a result that sees him take the championship lead today. Adrian Kukula starts P27 for Short Competition Esports, joined by Casper Rotner for Old Dudes in Cars, and completing the top 30 it's Ryan Miles for ProTech Motorsport and Steinar Sunny for Racing Up Esports Car X. Behind them it will be Marvin Cruz for Old Dudes in Cars and Peter Cox for UK Sim Racing Hill, with row 17 going to Matt Edmondson P33 for UK Sim Racing Hill and UK Sim Racing Mansell's Darren Sharples. Row at number 18 goes to Mark Kolokov for AI Race Series DCW Racing and James Connolly for UK Sim Racing Hill. And then we do have behind them what is Niall Killen for Mule.io and Jack Barker, the privateer P38, Christopher Bates for RGV Racing and Mark Johnson for UK Sim Racing Mansell. Complete your top 40. And then on row number 21 it's Thomas Barget, the privateer, joined by Simon Hartley for Tiki Simsport Tire. And on the final complete row of the grid is John Davis for the Wrong Stuff and Racing Lab Esports Car X is Thomas Aspaug. And then last but not least, starting P45, ladies and gentlemen, from Downforce Racing, it's Lawrence Marsh, who did not get a time on the board, and we look forward to seeing how he can come through from the back of the field. As all our drivers get themselves set, we're now only moments away from going green flag racing. It's only a partial formation out. You can see the GTPs have been given ample space by the GT3s, and as they make the way down, it's the man on the left-hand side of your picture of Andy or Andrew Dawson, who will be taking us to the green flag for 60 minutes of racing here at Monza. Who will be leading come the exit, the first chicane? Who will be the boldest on the breakthrough there? Well, all that and more is about to be foretold, for as we make our way through the final corner, the safety car will peel on in, and it's to Andrew Dawson to take us to the green. It's lights out and away we go for the GTP class as Dawson leaves it late, but as they make the way down towards turn number 1, it's worked out to its advantage here as the Briton roars his way down. The best part of 10,000 horsepower charges its way into the braking zone, and as they come on down, it's 2 by 2 by 2 as they all come on through. Everybody right now trying to negotiate safely, and it looks so here, everyone making it on through as best they possibly can as they all come rolling out. A couple of drivers going wide there, I think trying to give space to their rivals on the inside. But the key point being that Dawson still leads ahead of Busby, but as they make the way out towards the second chicane, we look back to the GT3s, and it's Anders Meyer who gets us underway there in the BMW M4 on the right hand side of your picture as he goes green flag racing speed already building there, and as he makes his way on down, covering off Eric Rosev, as we do see at the back in the back of the picture, Aspal trying to make a move around the outside already, and into the braking zone they go here. Look at Herodas Jatatas on the right, your picture having us down the outside there, hasn't really got the ability to attack the Ferrari. Under attack from Joshua Pratt by comparison as they all come through, and as they do, Sarkar off on the grass there, catched it just in time, and that was Thomas Barger who just gets the the car back together. I think they've all been able to survive the opening chicane. By the looks of things, ladies and gentlemen, no major incidents at the start of this race. They've all made it on through, and that's absolutely brilliant to see. But meanwhile, coming from the GT3s back to the GTP, Salvatore Guariento under attack immediately here for GTP and lead by Ollie Pimley as the DY13 driver all over the bag. And as they make the way out to Ascari, down towards turn number 11 they go, which could be Pimley on the right, Guariento on the left. Pimley ahead already by nose, and as they're heading towards the braking zone, door in the middle open there, and I think Jonathan Hitchin thinking about making it free wide and decided not to, but Guariento tucks in here and lets Hitchin go, as Hitchin and also Pimley go very wide there. Cold tyres catching them out, plus also a cooler circuit, but after one lap of racing right now, it's not over between them as they make the way down. Guariento now having to look down the inside here as they charge their way into the braking zone for turn number 1. Who out of the two of them here will be the bolder on the brakes this time? We'll have to wait and see. Guariento going all in, but he can't find a way as Hitchin takes the position firmly. Meanwhile, further behind David Lewison there, under a little bit of pressure to push forward, with a bit more brake behind Darryl Norkett ahead of him as well as they make the way through, and Lewison going a bit poorly out of the corner there, having a bit of a tight exit, and I think that might be a slowdown penalty perhaps being served there as Billy Ray goes up the inside. Meanwhile, Guariento versus Pimley. Well, Jonathan Hitchin, I'm not quite sure what's happened to Hitchin. He's going very slow in the right of your picture. I think the slowdown may have been accrued there, perhaps for track limits at the opening chicane, but it does mean that Guariento and Pimley are back on through, and as they make the way onwards towards the first Lesmo here, more a surprise to be certain, and Hitchin right now stumbling before he can go surging forward. But meanwhile, David Larson now also having to let places go due to a slowdown, so number drives being caught out by the automated stewarding system. As meanwhile, we look back to your GT3s, and this is Noel Killing looking to make it free wide, battling with Collicott, and also there James Connolly. And as they enter the braking zone, Collicott defend on the inside, Connolly tucked in behind Collicott, and Killing trying to go around the outside to inside it, but more of a defense now versus Connolly, and it's going to be a move there by Killing to take the position of a James Connolly for P5 in the GT3 AM class as they make the way to speed. But it's not over yet as we ride on board and look back here from the rear of the Muriel.io Porsche 992, and as you can see, Connolly gets it closer and closer, peeling out already, 9 the moves on, and as they make the way down towards the braking zone, Connolly on the right of your picture, it's Killing on the left as they go into Reggio. Onto the brakes they go, and Connolly comes back there. Brilliant back and forth racing, and that's why moves are not done in a single corner here. It takes multiple corners. We've got Matt Edmondson going slowly as they make the way on through into Lesmo 1. Edmondson being caught out there by track limits, and Neville now having to bring himself back together, and we can see that Killing not too happy with the way this has worked out, with Edmondson putting a bit of breathing room in for his teammate there of Connolly as they make the way back together. I think Edmondson would just say, well, I returned to the racing line, it was safe to do so. I think Killing right now flashes lights saying, hey, we had a race going on there, I didn't want to be interrupted. I think right now it's anything but that as they make the way in towards Ascari, and into the next braking zone they go. Further behind, meanwhile, you can see John Davis going on the offensive versus Thomas Barjuk here. The Ferrari driver backing out, however, into Ascari, giving himself a bit of breathing room for the wrong stuff. And I think right now, not only can attack the racing machine, he's just got a bit the right time to do it. He's got a bit the right time to get close as well. And that's the important part of this racing, isn't the fact you can be as close as possible to the car in front. But if you're too close too early in that battle, then you can't capitalise on the toe. And suddenly, all that advantage you have is worth nothing as they make the way on through the long right hand here at Parabolica. But as they do so, meanwhile, we look back up to your GTP leaders, and as we can see here, Sam Sherwood P6 chasing after Austin William Campbell, as right now the Acura driver, the highest placed Acura out of them all on the grid. And as they make the way down towards Parabolica curve, they're quite close to coming up behind the GT3 class already. We're only what will be 4 laps in shortly when they come across the timeline. They've gone to lap number 4, and we will have the GTPs and the GT3 starting to intersect come the late stage of this next lap, and that is going to be interesting to see. I can tell you that, ladies and gentlemen, as Sherwood here under increasing pressure to make a move, as Ben Cullen getting close there. And I think the big simulation drivers of 2 minds here. Does he want to go on the offensive? Does he not? And I think right now he's really considering going on the offensive and backs out, knowing what's to come. Meanwhile, got Ryan Davis into the pit lane. I think with an issue with the car. We're not quite sure what the story for Ryan Davis is. And as Alexander Mikkelsen makes his way past Rudy Vixland, and the Racing Lab Esports Moser driver gain another place overall versus his sister team driver there, but not in class. Keep in mind, of course, that one's a pro, one's an am, as they make the way in towards turn at number 3. Meanwhile, we look from them to Joshua Pratt. Right now, the TE Sport driver having one of his strongest performances of the season so far, coming with qualifying, and he's trying to make some further progress here, chasing after Jotatas and Eric Rodzev. But as they make the way through the left-hander into Ascari, or meanwhile, looking a bit further back in this long line of cars, Kukudas comes on through, and then Peter Cox, as we see Peter Cox there trying to play the game, putting pressure on Steinar, standing and breaking away from Mark Collicott. We do now start to have those GTPs siphon their way through the field, as meanwhile we see a Nicholas Rice here under some pressure to try and get past. One is there Ryan Miles, but down at the inside, and Casper Brotner. It's the battle of the Ferraris. Brotner there looks at the inside, can't seem to quite find the move, and Rice right now, he has got a comfortable advantage over second place man GT3 and Plus for Stein. I'll say that gap 3.3 seconds. But I think right now Nicholas Rice wants to make some more headway and doesn't want to be interrupted in doing so. I don't think he's going to have a choice of that. As meanwhile, one man who doesn't have a choice here, he has got a Ferrari that's absolutely glued to his rear bumper. That is Harold Stratatus as they come on down into the braking zone at Rettifilio as they make the way out of the corner. Meanwhile, further back, Peter Cox is side by side, battling with Mark Kolokop. In Kolokop comes on through for position as everyone comes roaring down to the braking zone for turn number 1 now. And as they do, the GTP's in full effect as well. Cyanti flashes lights in the rear of the picture to say I'm coming through, ready or not. And as they make the way through here, John Davis around the inside to outside here of what will be, I believe, that is Simon Hartley. But in the end, he can't find his way through, and John Davis having to back off there. It was a brave move, but in the end, I think the GTP traffic just making both drivers want to be a bit more cautious by comparison. Simon Hartley right now holding position as they make the way through Curva Grande and up towards Regia. Flashing lights there from more of our GTP drivers. They all come up the inside, and this is where the battling now takes a little bit of a pause, and everybody's got to think, okay, who am I battling with? And I've got a GTP coming up my inside, or I've got a GT3 on my outside, etc. And now this is where it becomes a game of chess at high speed, because you've got to think about 4 moves in advance. And speaking of this, an exact example with Stein, Arsani and Mark Kolokop let Andrew Dawson go, your GTP overall leader, and now Paul Busby comes down the right to them. Kolokop having to back out here, but Stein Arsani under huge pressure to keep Kolokop behind as they make the way on through Ascari, through the left into right into left chicane they go. And look at this, and the AI Racing with DCW Racing Drive, he's all over the back of Sani, and right now that Porsche may not have the speed on a single lap, but right now Kolokop showing that it's sometimes all about how much pressure you can put on your rivals. They make the way in towards turn number 11. Through they go. Sunny goes a bit deep, and Kolokop's going to come on through for position here as Sunny runs too deep into the corner, and as they make the way out, well, Sunny does have the advantage now, which is he's got the toe down towards turn number 1. But will it be enough here? As we can see, the GTP's literally having to go forwards. The Moses manoeuvre here of reverse Moses, in fact, parting the seas around the GT3s, and as they come on down, well, Stein, Alsania and Kolokop's going to defend to the inside. The GTP's all have to back off here because of this battle, but as they come onto the brakes, you can see the site anti absolutely boxed in as they make the way on through. And right now, well, the thing for the private team Welshman is the fact he's got nowhere to go. He's biding his time, he's being patient, to be fair to him. Meanwhile, these two have got places to go. It's Sherwood versus what is there, I do believe, Austin William Campbell. Sherwood trying to hold on in just in front of Ben Cullen. Sherwood defends hard. Austin William Campbell looks up the inside, but no real way through. As they make the way through the corners, we jump on board. He's going to get a move going here. Austin William Campbell up the inside as Sherwood has to pick his way through it. Did Sherwood just take the grass in order to get that move done to go around his rivals? My goodness, if so, that was incredibly brave from Sam Sherwood. Risky as well. We take a look back at that from Sam Sherwood's perspective. I think he's had to take a bit of a rallycross line. Indeed he has, with the GT3 sticking to the middle of the road. Brilliant awareness from everyone, and I think there Sam would have been on the radio to Ryan, the Protect Motorsport Porsche would have seen, to say, look, I'm coming through on the outside here, you've got to give me the space, otherwise we're both going to end up in tears. I think immediately Ryan put him aside, but meanwhile, as we return to your live pictures, ladies and gentlemen, you couldn't make this up in terms of the fact Austin William Campbell there positioned himself perfectly, and Sam Sherwood literally taking the most abrupt line possible. But as they make the way into the braking zone, it's William Campbell's on the charge here, the accurate driver right now, catch up to the back of Ben Cullen, and Cullen's had a nightmare in traffic on this lap. He's lost the best part of 4 seconds as they make the way across the timeline. And as they head down towards turn number 1, William Campbell right now on the offensive. On the left of your picture, they'll spin round, he'll be on the right when they go past our cameraman, but he's on the inside in towards Rettifilio. Onto the brakes they go, 10 minutes in, and Austin William Campbell right now absolutely on attack mode here. It's brilliant to see, and right now looking to try and extend that championship lead at the front, but as he makes his way on through turn 2 into 3, right now he's got the best part of 2 seconds to close down Joshua Wilson, but the top 4 very separate from one another at this point, with the Effect Simulations Club Sports driver of Andrew Dawson trying to make it 2 wins on the bounce ahead of Paul Busby, with Joe Newman P3 the best part of 2 seconds behind, and between Dawson and Busby the 1.3 second gap. So I think right now these three all thinking about strategy first and foremost. Joshua Wilson a further 3 seconds off, and right now it does seem as though Wilson not quite at the pace of the top 3, but still looking to be there as their present threat and trying to work with his Effect Simulation teammates in order to get into the mix versus Newman. They'd love to make it another 1, 2, 3 like what we saw at Le Mans earlier this season. season. But meanwhile, we're talking a lot about the GTPs. What about our GT3s, I hear many of you ask? Well, here we look to Peter Cox. He makes his way on through at Lesmo 1 into Lesmo 2. The P9 GT3 Pro driver currently sandwiched between the hands of Stanley and Conley. And they'll be eager to try and get Cox aside because they want to go racing against one another rather than with Peter Cox. And just to remind the uninitiated, there's no points for a driver finishing ahead of a driver of another class in the same type of machine. It all comes down to class finishing position here. The only other things available are bragging rights as they make the way into the braking zone here for Ascari. Well, you can see the Rob Armstrong a bit all over the back of Sani, the prototype driver trying to pick his way through, and well, in the worst possible place to do so. And that's why you don't want to catch GT3s when you're a prototype going for Ascari, because you will lose a plethora of time. Meanwhile, one man who's not losing time, he's not wasting any time here as he makes his way on through Ascari. It's down towards Racing's Lawrence Marsh as he makes his way on towards turn number 11. Remember, this is the man who started from the back of the field. He didn't get a lap on the board and qualified, and the downforce racing driver's already gone from P13 in class to P9, and he's on the offensive versus Thomas Aspau here. He's not going to be a target in the GT3 AM class, but it's Mark Johnson, who's only 1.5 seconds further up the road, and Marsh right now is putting in top 5 pace in that Porsche 992 as they make the way across the timeline and go on to what will be for the GT3 class, lap number 7. And as Marsh looks up the inside here, I think Aspau is going to relinquish himself to play here and let Marsh go, given the fact they're in 2 different classes. You see that Marsh being allowed to return to the racing line. No resistance offered. Meanwhile, resistance being offered here by Hartley versus Barger. And once again, Simon Hartley absolutely frustrated there. And the thing that Barger's doing very well is he's using the brakes that Porsche. They're very strong by comparison with the Pierce. And that's the thing about this Porsche. When it's corners that count, that is where the Porsche goes. Well, it's got the brakes, it's got the rotation, it's got everything you need for the perfect recipe. And with the toe of Aspau just in front of it, you would imagine that that's going to offset his weakness, and that's causing the Hartley right now, I think, to try and have to throw other options in this situation. But as they make the way on through the chicane there, you can see coming off, Barger not quite as fast on quarter exit, and therefore Hartley taking a beat, can't quite find it, having to wait once again in this battle for P10, the GT3 AM class. But as they make the way on around, meanwhile, looking a little bit further up the road, we do look to your leader of the GT3s, and he is your overall and pro leader of Anders Meyer. He's got Eric Rosev 1.3 seconds behind, and then Herodas Chatatas, but these three holding a formation currently. No real change between them, and I think all working on their strategy and consistency at this point in time, and thinking about when's at the right time to go on the charge. But as they make the way out of the final corner, meanwhile, we have got some drama, ladies and gents, but that's Jonathan Hitchin, who's gone on at turn number 1. He's taken to the escape road and made his way past what is the barriers there, the safety barriers, but I think the Civic Esports driver may have had a huge lockup under braking. What exactly happened? Well, coming down of his own volition here at high speed into the braking zone, and do the front brakes just lock up here? We lose him and he rematerializes from the ether, but I think there he may have had to let the brakes go through fear of a lockup, so Jonathan Hitchin in the end just having to weave his way between the bollards, and that's going to cost him a lot of time as he now brings himself back up to speed. But we return to your live pictures, ladies and gentlemen, and as we do so, we see in the rear of the picture Salvatore Goriento and Daryl Norquette, 2 drivers in 2 different classes. Goriento currently the P2 GTP AM driver, having lost the lead to Ollie Pimley in the early stages of this race. Pimley making his way on through, but Goriento right now, he's got Daryl Norquette for company, and then Billy Borre, who's had a phenomenal start to this race. Within the opening 14 minutes, he's gained 3 places in class. He's moved up to P3 in the Empire Motorsport driver. Well, right now, he may not be in 100% health condition, but I tell you one thing, he's 100% here to win as they come down towards turn number 11. It's going to be Goriento defense on the inside. Race made to just wait here as we jump on board with the Empire Motorsport driver, and as they come on through, Norquette's gone around the outside of Goriento to take track position, so Rand Goriento can now face off against one as they make the way on down. The Scotsman here in the tow. Indeed, everybody absolutely siphoned in the tow for Norquette's car. As you can see there, Ray inching closer and closer, little by little. Looks to the inside here. Is he going to go for it from 2 tenths back? No, he backs off the car, recognising there's another opportunity later on, and he'll be hoping that Norquette can just break away now and therefore leave Goriento to have to do the straight under his own tow. But as they make the way out of 2 and up towards turn number 3, 15 minutes of the clock gone, still 3/4 of the race to go here. We've had an absolutely brilliant opening 15 minutes, the cleanest start possible. I can see a number of you commenting on how clean it was through the opening lap, and particularly GZN High there saying it's the cleanest Monza start they've ever seen, and also Joe Newman saying about using the side panel of the car to brush other drivers away. But as we do see Nave 66 there saying they call Joe Newman the king of the 0X, and Fantafor Racing also talking about Joe Newman as well. We'll say hello to G-Force Grandma there who says ha, and indeed right now I think it's absolutely astounding if you're a multi-class racing fan in terms of all the battling here. But as Ray looking very close to the back of Warriento, looks to the inside. Warriento on the outside, it's into the braking zone. Ray's going all in on the brakes into Ascari. The Scotsman gets it hooked up. Can he get it stopped in time? He does just about, and that's P2 in the GTP AM class of Billy Bob Ray. Can Warriento come back at him yet? We'll have to wait and see as they make the way up towards turn number 11. But I think Ray's got the move done here in an absolutely classic textbook move into Ascari. And meanwhile, whilst this is playing out, there's still more going on further up the road, and the fact that Slight Anti and also that Alex Hill are battling with Sam Sherwood for P7 in the GTP Pro class, and it's going to be Anti up the inside of Sherwood. Sherwood does not fight it outside to inside through the chicane, so I think Sam Sherwood working on the strategy first and foremost. As they make the way out turns 1 and 2, well, right now Alex Hill inching closer here, and Hill already gaining 1 place since the start, and now trying to gain a couple more before it's said and done. Meanwhile, Darryl Norquette into the pit lane, and I suspect that is for strategy. That's going to be an early pit stop from Darryl Norquette, in fact, the earliest pit stop that we have on expected schedule here today, although I say that Ryan Davis is already pitted, and Ryan Davis right now making his way on down towards turn number 1. The TE Simsport driver here, with Darryl Norquette still in the pits, with Ryan Davis having pitted already, is going all the way to the end after a 17-second pit stop. That is going to be absolutely phenomenal to do, but we'll have to wait and see. We have also had a pit stop to Sam Congreve, but I believe that may have been for an instant at the start of the race that was gone very, very wrong for Sam Congreve. We'll try and get you an update on that as soon as possible, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, we do have an update, and this is what happened to Sam Congreve at the start of the race. We didn't quite catch this on camera. So going very slowly there, coming on down Cerro-Galero. Same went wrong earlier on in the lap, and I believe we could potentially put what happened to Sam Congreve down to this incident that did occur on lap number 1, making his way into Lesmo 2, runs wide, a little bit of a rub there. Oh, goodness me! And contact with a car from behind. Now, I'm not quite sure, was that Sam Sherwood who made the contact? The camera angle was not flattering, but the rear of Sam Congreve's car absolutely being ripped off the back through somebody giving it a nasty shunt on the back there after getting it wrong through the corner, just no momentum, and everyone else coming through full speed, and that's why Sam Congreve's had to be towed to the pits as a result. But goodness me, that's been our one major incident towards the front of the field on the open lap, in particular in the GTP category. But as we return to your live pictures, ladies and gentlemen, that explains why Sam Congreve has been the situation. We have had some information come through from Jacko Racing in the Twitch chat, which we really do appreciate. Thank you, Jacko, to say that Ryan Davis didn't clear a slowdown in time and therefore got a penalty, and that's why Ryan Davis has been in the pit lane. So therefore, we do believe that Darryl Norquette is our first strategic pit stop driver. Sam Sherwood is also leaving the pit lane. He's taken a pit stop just recently whilst we've been looking back at the replay footage. So therefore, we have got strategic battles starting to play out, but meanwhile, on track battles here, with the battle for P2 in the GP Pro class. It's Busby versus Newman. Newman all over the back of his rival as they come on through, and well, they've just cleared a whole plethora of GT3 class chariot that's been led by Marvin Cruz, who's in P8 of the GT3 Pro class. He's got starting signing James Connie of the AM class behind him. You can see him in the rear of the pitch there as they head down towards the breakers over turn number 11, and as they do so here, we can see flashing lights coming on through from Joshua Wilson. He wants to be let on through, but I can tell you that with the way that the fact that Busby has had to negotiate that traffic, he has lost on this last lap alone. Paul Busby has lost the best part of 3 seconds to Newman as a result of finding his way through it, and that is how the traffic can very quickly turn your race and be a golden one to an absolute nightmare in a single lap in terms of being forced back into a battle. But as they come down towards turn number 1, onto the brakes they go, and as they do so here, long line of stern formation of cars for what is this battle in the midfield of the GT3. Mark Johnson a bit further behind, battling side by side with Christopher Bates. Bates on the right, Johnson on the left, and as he goes on to the brakes there, I think Johnson's going to get this move done for P6 in the GT3 AM class. Indeed, a traditional move there. Bates not fighting it too hard through the second apex, and I think feeling as though after Johnson got fully alongside, it's turn number 1. He may as well tuck in and then follow Johnson, given the fact there's still a long way to go in this race, and that long distance will prove pivotal to try as they continue to push on here. Rob Armstrong into the pit lane as well for his pit stop of the day. I do believe as we hit the 20-minute mark, so therefore more GTP drivers have been trying to pit early where they can if they're not really in the race at the front of the field, or to pit sooner rather than later, observing what the traffic is on the circuit and trying to find some clear space that may bring them right into the battle later on today. We'll have to wait and see, but meanwhile, speaking of the growing battle at the front of the field, in the GT3 class, this is Anders Meyer, the BMW M4 Race Lab Esports Monza driver. He does have behind him teammate Eric Rosev in the Ferrari 296, and Milja Tartas has now fallen to the best part of 1.8 seconds off of the pair So it does look as though right now Jotata's starting to slip a little bit in terms of pace here. Again, we'll have to wait to see, because again, Herodotus Jotata may just simply be trying right now to manage the car and perhaps save a little bit of fuel. But the problem with that Porsche in particular is, unless he's in the tow, he really does need to be giving it everything. Short shifting and lifting the coast is going to cost him time. It's not really going to earn him any time here in terms of the relative. Even if he is able to save in terms of his stationary time in the pits, the time you lose on circuit doing that, it's not offset enough. And therefore, right now, the hope in the race lab esports drivers are potentially upheld to a degree by GTP making the way through it, and it brings them back together. And as they make the way in towards Regia and into the latter half of the lap very shortly. Meanwhile, we do look from them back up to what is the battle for third place and second place in the GTP class, and this is between Salvatore Guariento and what was at the time Billy Bob Ray. In fact, Ray makes his way through the foreground of the camera shots. Now Guariento falling back to a degree, and I think here the traffic not falling favourably for the Italian as he makes his way around the outside of a whole variety of GT3s, including Peter Cox, as they make the way in towards turn number 4. Guariento on the brakes there right now, I think just trying to go hunted after Ray, but the problem is he's now walked up to the back of Marvin Cruz and also Steiner. Sonny looks up the inside here into Lesbo 1. It's going to get very close there. Guariento all over the back of Sonny, but no, he can't risk it at the end of the day. And as they make the way into Lesbo 2, right now Guariento definitely, I think, feeling the pinch of traffic here. He's got Alexander Schmidt-Wachowski trying to follow him on through, but meanwhile looking from there back here to Austin William Campbell. Right now, this is the battle for P5 in the GTP Pro class, and it is Campbell versus Cullen as they make the way out to the final corner. It's going to go be Cullen around the outside, but Austin William Campbell has to negotiate around the outside there. It was Anders Mara, the leader of the GTP Pro class, and in turn he forces Cullen to go even wider. Well, that's going to be an interesting one there with regards to if that goes to a race slowdown instant for Ben Cullen, but I think they've got away with it this time. But the point being here that both drivers are taking the same approach to making their way past Myra, but in the end Austin William Campbell and Watts Cullen almost having a bit of a coming together as a result as they make the way out of turn number 2. As they pound way on through, Ben Cullen right now giving the pursuit in at the Acura here as he builds up through the gearbox, and we jump on board. And whilst William Campbell, after what was an absolutely ferocious start to this race, I think now has had to start to rein the pace to a degree and just start to manage the battery a little bit more, plus also the fuel of the car, perhaps trying to extend his strategy here in terms of the stint on the opening half of this race. And as they make the way in towards Lesbo 1, Rob Armstrong there respecting the blue flags. He is a lap down after taking his early pit stop and therefore letting the GTP lead lap drivers come on through. You can see there both drivers making the way through Lesbo 2. Interesting with William Campbell opting to dodge the apex curb. Cullen absolutely nailing the curb and then to then bring the car back together. But William Campbell's car almost practically dancing its way through the corner as they make the way in towards turn number 8, coming on through left into right. And I think Cullen may have set this Acura up just to be a bit more comfortable on the curbs by comparison with how the Acura William Campbell's been set up. You can see that the body language of the cars is that William Campbell really focusing on avoiding the curves for rotation, meanwhile Cullen able to just drive over them a little bit more aggressively and get the wheels hooked up. As they make the way down to Parabolica, no shenanigans with having to go around GT3s this time. They've got a clear run out of the corner, and you can see the gap right now, 4 tenths, but it is closing out as they make the way into the start for the straight to go on to what for them is lap number 16. Charging away on down here, 3 tenths and close. It still is number 79, and as the inches close, he'll be thinking about it here, looking for it. William Campbell responds for this GT3 traffic, and that gives William Campbell a good defense there in the fact he has to negotiate the traffic and put himself on the unfortunate line, and Cullen cannot find his way through. I think he was definitely thinking about it, but when he did see the GT3 materialise on the left-hand side of his dashboard, that's when he's had to let it go. But right now, Cullen trying to make up for what was a difficult qualifying session, which saw him start P11 in the class as they make the way in towards the next braking zone. We're coming on down here. Meanwhile, as they make the way on through Regia, we do look to Noel Killen, who has made some progress recently, found his way past Darren Sharp with the Mark Johnson on previous laps, we should say, and right now the Mura.io driver in the 193 trying to claim another overall GT3 position versus Peter Cox. His next target in terms of class position will be James Conley on circuit. James Conley is 1.5 minutes up the road. In fact, you can see Conley there in the foreground of the camera shot as we do have this whole medley of pros and ams in the GT3 class, all nose to tail. The vast majority of them being Porsches, and the Porsche drivers having to work together here in order to be able to get the race pace out of the car. As they make the way through turn 3, we do say hello to Andy Pandy in at the Twitch chat, who says that Mark Collicott isn't dead yet in terms of his race coming to a abrupt halt. Indeed, Mark Collicott for AR Racing, who's DCW Racing, up leading in the GT3 class currently and running ahead with an 11.5 second advantage. And number 5 driver from the United Kingdom, I think, feeling quite confident that things are going his way today for a podium as a minimum, if not the win. As we also say hello to Mixon too there, who says hi, good evening to you Mixon, I hope you're doing well. As he heads down towards what will be not Parabolica, heads down towards the Ascari before Parabolica, and going in towards that braking zone. Collicott right now, a bit of a lonely race, but he does have a bit of entertainment in the form of Casper Brotner and Ryan Moles just in front. Speaking of which, as the Pro-Tech Motorsport driver tries to break away from the old Dukes and Cars Ferrari, finds the Porsche there, just hasn't got the speed on the straights, he's being reeled back in as quickly as he can break away through the corners. They made way down towards lap number 11. As they do so, meanwhile looking back here to the battle for what is P5 on track in the GT3 AM class between Johnson and Bates. We have had a number of drivers we should point out in the GT3 AM class pit, including Nicholas Rice, also Lawrence Marsh, Matt Edison, Jack Barker and John Davis, and therefore it does mean, ladies and gentlemen, right now a number of our GT3 AM drivers are really out of position here, and therefore don't take their positions that you see on the time tower as their expected positions once strategy plays out necessarily. Speaking of another pit stop, James Conley just made his way into the pits as well, so look at my commentary window, so therefore Conley making his way down pit row, and with that I would imagine he's going to drop towards the bottom end of the top 10. We'll have to wait and see where he fits into the field when all is said and done, but it does mean now a lot of GT3 drivers opt in to go for an earlier pit stop, and that might be just to buy themselves a track position versus their rivals and see if they can gain. But again, if you haven't got the toe of another car, are you going to be gaining, or will you be in fact losing despite that track position advantage? And that's the bit that we'll be running through many a mind as Bates, they're getting very close to the rear of Johnson on the exit of Retvillo, and as he heads on through Curva Grande. Right now, Bates, I think, will be hoping he can just get a little bit closer here. He heels out of the dirty air and going out to turn number 3. 1.5 tenths and closing. He could be in attack range here as they make their way into the braking zone. In there, Bates backs off, and I think just fuel saving here. I think he could make the move for what would be a class position in the pits when it comes down to the strategy by spending less time in the stop. But definitely Bates right now has the patience for saying and demonstrating that in the fact waiting up there and waiting for Johnson to even make a mistake or for the pit stop to come up. As they made the way for return at number 7. Meanwhile, we look back to your leader in the GTP Pro class, and overall it's Andrew Dawson here still up front, 3 seconds clear of Paul Busby as he makes his way onwards and down towards Ascari. You can see there Busby in the rear of the picture, but Dawson right now just feeling as though this race is coming to him little by little, and as Busby heads in towards the braking zone here for what is Ascari. Right now the effect simulation drive, he's got a gap of 2.5 seconds over Joe Newman. So Newman right now not really able to close the gap up. See in the last lap where the gap opened up quite sizably, but Dawson by comparison really dominates when it comes to the pace stakes out of the trio in that inside that top 3. But from then we look back to Ben Cullen and the effect simulations drive, who's still trying to find his way past the fellow Acura of Austin William Cameron. These two battling for the right to be the #1 Acura here today at Monza, in the fact that right now the next Acura being Alex Hill in P8, a bit further down. In fact, he was just making his way out of Ascari in the rear of your picture there. But Ben Cullen right now close, but I think he started to think more about the strategic options here to make the pass rather than the on-track options, given the fact these two seem to be so evenly matched from lap to lap and quarter to quarter. But as they head down towards turn at number 1. Meanwhile, we've got a car pointing the wrong way here at what is the Retvillo chicane, or the Prima Variante, and that's Mark Johnson, the UK Sim Racing man. So gets the car off the road, but as he does so, he'll rejoin shortly and will avoid any potential drama. But what happened to Mark Johnson? Making his way in this replay onto the brakes here, going down to turn number 1. Karin is inside, and well, a tap there. That was from the number 91, and I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, that's 97 in fact. That's Joe Newman, the Empire Motorsport driver, coming into contact there. And I think Newman finished a little space on the inside. Johnson turning on in, and the two met in the middle of the apex, and as a result Johnson's race being turned around and upside down very quickly, but right now back in the race with some damage on the car, and as he brings himself back up to speed here, he'll have to regroup and carry on as best he dares to dream to do so. As meanwhile, new fastest lap of the race in the GT3 class for Anders Meyer at 47.735. Right now the BMW M4 driver trying to break away at the front of the GT3 field. He's now got a 2.2 second gap over Eric Rosev, and here he is. Speak of the man, here he is in the hour. The racing over Esports Monza driver really putting the hammer down now, and I think his idea is that with pit stop starting to play out for the class, and he makes his way through turn number 3, he'll be feeding the zone. Now is the time to start to open up the taps and really bring to life that 6-cylinder BMW engine with its turbo and do everything he can here in order to break away before the pit stops play out. comes on through at the chicane and makes his way on around there. We have had an off track for Carlos in front. That was Jack Barker, in fact, who's taken the scenic route as he rejoins in the rear of the picture there in what was the exit of turn number 5. And with the Audi R8 driver there getting it wrong, coming on through the chicane. And all the private here, he had a bit of a spin earlier on. In fact, we may be getting a replay of that shortly coming through in the 163. And therefore, that's been a bit out of contention now of what is the top 5 in the GT3 AM class. But still, time to go, and you never know what can happen before it is all over. Looking from Barker back to the GTP class. This is Sam Congreve for Empire Motorsport. Debuts on today, currently in P14 in the GTP Pro class, the last of the GTP Pro runners. Of course, keep in mind that incident that occurred to him on lap number 1, and therefore he had to be towed to the pits. So right now, a lap down the class, I think just trying to get the kart in and pick up any places that are dropped through at late retirements as we move into that second half of the race. Still 29 minutes on the clock, so Congreve in here just staying resilient and bringing it all the way to the end. And as he makes his way through turns at 4 and 5, Monza has not been a circuit for Sean Carney for Sam Congreve over the years of racing the UK Sim Racing League. It seems every time he races here, misfortune seems to find him rather rapidly, and that curse continues to strike him today in the number 9, but he makes his way through turn at number 7. Meanwhile, we do look from him back to Peter Cox, and right now the UK Sim Racing Hill driver, well, this is battling for overall at GT3 class position. This is the battle for GT3 at P9 overall, but it's Steiner Sonny who's holding on here in the BMW on the left-hand side of your picture, and well, Peter Cox in the Porsche, all behind the battle of the 2 German marks, and as they make their way through turn at number 11. Right now it does look as though here it's going to be Peter Cox who's got the run out the corner, but again in the tow. You can see how BMW is able to just stabilise the gap at 2 tenths. It does very gradually come down, albeit by micrometers. They make their way in towards turn number 1, and as they head in towards the braking zone here, we've got going to get this done. It will be in the braking zone, but I think right now Peter Cox just eager to stay behind and pick up the slipstream, and therefore be able to save some fuel by being that close to the rear of Sandy's car. And indeed, he's got to be that close to stay on the speed of the BMW in front. But that is the balance of performance for you we talked about earlier today in terms of the Porsche just not having the straight line speed. But Peter Cox right now digging in here and trying to muscle a result out of the Porsche before all is said and done. Meanwhile, we do look from them back to Jonathan Hitchin, who's just behind coming up, and that is Alex Hill in front of Hitchin, and behind him is Darren Norquette, albeit Darren Norquette is a lap down, and Jonathan Hitchin here looking to try and find his way past Hill, with Hill up the inside of not just one, but both of the GT3 drivers. That was Sandy and Cox. Hitchin follows him on through. Hill goes a bit wide as he does so. Hitchin here will capitalise on Hill's mistake and go up the inside into Lesmo too, and Jonathan Hitchin moves into P8 there for Symphony Esports. Neither driver's taking a pit stop as yet, so this is a battle for track position, and as they make their way through the kick and on Steriglio, you can see right now Hill getting a bit close to come back, but right now I think the BMW M8 Hybrid of Hitchin will keep him safe as he makes his way through turns 8, 9, 10, that straight line speed just going the way of the Briton. As he heads in towards turn at number 11. Meanwhile, looking from one GTP battle to another, this is Cullen versus Austin William Campbell, and Ben Cullen has found his way past in recent laps, albeit will we see now a counter-attack here from Austin William Campbell in the run down towards turn number 1. Austin William Campbell right there, Cullen defends the inside, and as they both head onto the brakes here, well, who's going to be the later of the 2 breakers? They're both equally matched here. Cullen on the inside, Austin William Campbell round, but it's contact between the 2 of them, and then Cullen is sent around. Meanwhile, Austin William Campbell carries on, and well, there, I don't think Cullen's going to be too pleased with that. The big question is, was Cullen squeezing Austin William Campbell to the apex and vice versa? Well, the camera angle's not too flattering, but I think if that does go to the shooter's room afterwards, they're going to have some time to try and pick that one apart. But let's take a look back at how it all started, starting with what was the original move by Ben Cullen for the position on Austin William Campbell. We do get the replay here, ladies and gentlemen. This was 3 laps before, and it was making the way out of Ascari that Cullen found his way through. Austin William Campbell having a compromised line there behind the car of Christopher Bates, and Cullen able to find his way through it, and then William Campbell just tucking in behind and going on the offensive over the subsequent laps. So that was on lap number 19, and then we take a look back to the battle between them as they made their way down into the braking zone, and as we look to one is, I do believe one of our television cameras here. Well, it's not the most flattering camera angle for either driver in the fact I think both of them were the apex as much as the other, but in the end Cullen coming the worse off, and we'll let us know your thoughts there, ladies and gentlemen. Say camera angles not too obliging. I think that's one we will definitely need to reserve judgment to the stewards room after the race today. But Cullen now behind Cy Anthony, and well, Cy Anthony trying to push on here for a top 5 finish today. It is going to be a hard battle for Cy Anthony. In fact, he does have a few bruise marks on the front bumper of that Cadillac, and I there would say that he's losing a bit of straight line speed as well. Cullen right there on his heels as they make their way up towards turn number 1. and heading down into the braking zone, and as they do, right now not quite able to get involved here. Through the right into left they go, and Sainz Anthony feeling some pressure. I think also trying to feel a bit safe here as they make their way deeper and deeper into their opening stint. Looking from them back to Mark Collicott here, your GT3 AM leader, as he makes his way on past John Davis, a lap down the wrong stuff driver, and the AI Racing DCW Racing driver still carrying on here, deciding not to pit as yet. As we said earlier, do keep in mind that Nicholas Rice, one of the first GT3 AM drivers to pit, he was in contention for the win here today. In fact, he was quite a sizable gap ahead of Collicott when he came into the pit. So Rice arguably the favourite on paper, but has this strategy played out? Has he been able to maintain his pace since the pit stop? That will be the thing on the mind of the Dirty Rice Racing driver as he comes out of turn number 11. Lovely livery on that Ferrari 296, it must be said. And right now, well, you don't get any bonus speed for lovely liveries. It's always a motivated factor. And Rice, he heads down there, is chasing after a colourful car of Cy Hartley as they make their way in towards the next breakdown at turn number 1. This is the battle for P4. Keep in mind that Simon Hartley has yet to pit, and therefore on strategy, I think it will be a question here of whether Hartley fights this or not, whether he will compromise his own race versus the race of Rice, or whether Hartley will just let Rice go, and well, only Simon Hartley can be the decision maker of that. And well, I do wonder whether perhaps Wiz Greg Zenhai will be on the radio to his driver there, the team principal at TT Simsport, to give advice on how to play this one out in terms of the strategy. But as they made their way on through the Regina chicane, Rice there having to let Vinny Ray go. The GT AM driver cut up in his way on through, and therefore Rice losing a little bit of momentum. But just up the road from them, we do have the battle for P7 in the GT3 Pro class, as meanwhile off-camera holder Shitata's coming to the pit. And what I can tell you with that, also Casper Brotner's coming on in right now. So we have had two of our top 5 GT3 pros coming in, but on our camera we have Adrian Kukulas versus Ryan Moles here. Both of them have pitted, so therefore this is now going to be an effective battle whereby we'll have to wait and see where they come out in the proceedings. Shitata's already leaving the pit lane, making his way on down towards the pit exit, and I think he'll be re-emerging quite comfortably as we do look to Shitata. He comes out of the pits. Where's this going to put him? Or as he makes his way back up to speed, Petecox is yet to pit, so Shitata is the highest place of the GT3 pros who have pitted. So Shitata's effective strategy leader right now against Anders Meyer and Eric Rosef, but can they find a way back when they take their own pit stops? That will be the question. Meanwhile, we've got Casper Brotner leaving the pit lane. Here comes Adrian Kukulas and Ryan Moles. They come on down. Brotner's just left the pits, and in fact, got himself up to speed now. As you'll see on the left of your picture there, will be what is Casper Brotner, but right now Kukulas and Moles have jumped back ahead of him. So Casper Brotner losing out there. Mark Collicott re-emerged, and Collicott having taken his pit stop has re-emerged your leader in the GT3 class. That early pit stop for Nicholas Rice has not paid off whatsoever. There's Rice in the rear of your picture. You just saw him making his way between the apexes of turns 1 and 2. And as we look back now from Collicott, here comes Rice, and it has been a swing of the best part of what is 10 seconds in the favour of Mark Collicott as a result of Rice taking the first pit stop out of the two of them. And the Dirty Rice Racing driver now has got to try and find a way to come back. We should put this in perspective. The pit stop length time for both drivers was actually shorter for Rice by the best part of what was a second in terms of stationary time. So therefore Rice has not gained, and he's arguably had the shorter pit stop, perhaps to save on some fuel in terms of putting some fuel in the car. So therefore Rice has now got all the work cut out for him, as meanwhile we have had an incident at Elsborough Circuit for Darryl Norkett, I do believe, in a bit of battle with Sam Congreve. As we do see here, Darryl Norkett trying to make his way on past Ollie Pimley, albeit Pimley a lap up the lead of the GTM class. We do have a replay coming up very shortly as to what happened between them, but before we look at that, we take a look at the battle here for his P3 in the GTM class between David Larson and Rudy Avitzland. Avitzland tucking in behind, but the Simona Esports driver trying to put Simon Hartley between himself and Avitzland, going on through Regina, does so very successfully, and that's going to buy Larson all the time in the world here to be able to break away as they make their way in towards a turn at number 6. Through the right hand they go. 20 minutes or so left on the clock plus the final lap. So now GTP drivers will be, if they haven't pitted already, be starting to think about the pit stops. We normally do see the GTPs run as long as the 50th minute of the race in here, but normally that pit stop does come. If it hasn't come within the opening of half an hour, it will come around the 40 to 45 minute mark, and Larson will be thinking about when he needs to pit. And well, this third place day will be another important podium on his way Laser trying to take that championship crown. As we on the battle between Guariento and Ollie Pimley. It could not be closer. This is the battle for the win in the GTP AM class, and these two are separated by the best part of what is only 4 tenths. They've got Daryl Norquette between them, but immediately Norquette makes way for him. Pimley and Guariento both into the pits here, so it's the battle and strategy now as they make the way on down. Both drivers will be absolutely egging the car on and hoping the pit crews can get the job done as rapidly as possible, as we do see a wounded car there in the pits. I do believe that is the wounded car of what is, unless I'm very much mistaken, of Rob Armstrong that's parked up there. But meanwhile, the battle and strategy here, we wait to see who's going to come out on top of the two of them as they get themselves all set and ready to go. And as they do so here, well, who's going to be the first one to leave? It's tensions bubbling, ladies and gentlemen. And well, in about 3, 2, 1, we should see, and it is going to be Pimley who just leaves, and then Guariento and leaves a bit further behind. So in the end, Pimley does have the faster pit stop by 1.5 seconds stationary time. Only Pimley will hold on to what will be the effective lead of the GTP AM class as they make the way out of the pit lane, but it is a gain for Pimley by 1.5 seconds now. Guariento's going to try and find a way to close that gap back up, or hope the traffic works out in his favour, albeit it doesn't there with Matt Edwards to slicing in front, and will Guariento will get past quickly, but that's how quickly it can start to impede you. As meanwhile, we look back to Ryan Moles and Adrian Kukulis. Moles still chasing Kukulis here for P5 in the GTP Pro class, and I believe this is a P5 track position and also strategy position now, in the fact that they are ahead, and all the drivers who have yet to have come in the GT3 Pro class. So it's a battle for the final spot of the top 5 here, and it will be between Kukulis and Moles at the finish, given the fact the next driver will be Casper Brotner, and Brotner is 4 seconds back and not really in this fight currently, but then again, never say never. You could see Casper Brotner encroach on this battle should they really start to take the time out of one another. But as we jump aboard here with Ryan Moles, and we see going around the outside, Ben Cullen, the P7 GTP Pro driver. Moles here just in the tow right now, and again having to play the game of patience, and also wary of the fact that if they do start to knock time out of one another, then you will have Brotner in the Ferrari close up very rapidly. And it really does seem to be one of those situations whereby the enemy of my enemy is my friend. In this case, with both of them not wanting to have Brotner get involved in the fight, they're going to have to try and work together as they make their way on through turn number 6 into 7. And onto the brakes they go here for the second Lesmo. They do have a wounded Audi in front of them in the form of Jack Barker's car, which does seem to have picked up a bit of additional damage since we've last seen it. But they're steering clear on the blue flags. And well, between them, oh my good lord, and Alex Hill just surging through and well passing the seas of GT3. And that was unexpected, but Hill knowing exactly how much risk it was worth as they head on through Ascari. But Mole's very close here. This could be the move he needs. They make the way out, but takes a bit too much apex curve at turn number 10. That upsets the front left side of the car, and you can see it just cuts his momentum here as they make the way up into top gear. And Kukulis now able to stay clear as they make the way into the braking zone. 2 tensions to gap. The problem is, even the smallest of errors are costly. As we see Kukulis going a bit deep, Moles gets the better run out the corner, but as he does so here, Kukulis now recovers the car. Well, a little bit of wheel spin there for both of them as they made the way down the start finish straight, and as they do, well, right now, Moles are still there, 2 tenths, the engine winds up to its maximum RPM, but as they head in towards the next braking zone here, who will be leading coming out? So I think Kukulis here will feel safe, and Moles backs off there and decides not to go for the move this time, but simply stick in the tow and hoping the move can come a bit later on the lap potentially. Meanwhile, whilst these guys are battling at 4P5 in the GT3 Pro class, we have had some pit stops start to play out in the GTP Pro class, particularly Joe Newman and Paul Busby, and here is Busby right now making his way on through Curve Grande. Newman at the best part of what is a further 2.5 seconds behind. In fact, a bit further than that, we should correct us. Well, no, he is 2.5 seconds behind. We got it right the first time. And as they make their way down to the braking zone here for turn number 4, the Empire Motorsport driver not really gaining, not really losing out, keeping well within attacking distance of Busby, as long as the traffic falls to him favourably as he goes into Lesmo 1 and to go out the inside quite late in the day there versus Casper Brotner. I think Brotner recognising it and opening the steering wheel back up just in time, but that could have been a bit of a tricky one for both of them. But Newman in the end does make it on pro as he now powers his way down Seraglio. And the number 97 driver here still on the hunt, and you can see Busby in the distance, but the problem is that distance is not closing, I think, the way he wants it to. Oh, goodness me, and that's almost gone very, very wrong for Ryan Moles. He's onto the gravel there, and, well, what exactly triggered that off is the question as he makes his way up to speed. Was there a little bit of an intervention, perhaps, while the GTP is coming on through? We take a look back very shortly at a replay of that, and in fact, we have a replay coming up immediately, and here is the story. as they made their way down to the braking zone. A little bit of an elbow there from what's Daryl Norquette by the looks of things, and Moles being sent slightly wide out to rejoin, and the subsequent contact between them sending Moles further onto the gravel. And well, that's what it looked like from the perspective. So Moles a bit unsettled as a result of that, but thankfully able to get away with it. But as they make their way up to speed, meanwhile, we do look from them back to James Connolly here on your live picture. Steiner, Sani and James Connolly, albeit Sani who's in the foreground here, and the focus of our cameraman's attention. Connolly was a bit further back, and Steiner, Sani chasing after Darren Sharples just in front of him there. The P9 GT3 Pro driver being chased down by the P4 GTP and GT3 AM driver, I should say. And as they head onwards towards the final 15 minutes of this race, well, Steiner, Sani right now giving it everything here, but it's just not enough. And I can tell you one thing that is enough is Noel Killing's strategy has worked out wonders here. Moved him into P3 in the GT3 AM class ahead of Sani, and the Mule.io driver is the best part of what is Nicholas Rice, 13.5 seconds. So right now Killing looking to try and take a spot on the podium here, and if so, to bring the portion of the podium, it'll be a 1-3 for portion in the GT3 AM class, with Colicott's lead gradually being chiselled away by what is Nicholas Rice, but nowhere near the rate knots needed to get the job done. So Collicott and Rice look to be settled down, and now it's just Killing versus Sani. That is where the big outstanding question is in this GT3 AM podium, and we can see that between the two is Darren Sharples, and Killing will be hoping it stays that way all the way to the checker flag, because he will want an easy run to the finish. But meanwhile, speaking of a man right now who looks to have an easy run to the finish, albeit it won't be easy given how hard he works the car, Andrew Dawson from Effect Simulations Clubs, where he emerges in the pit lane, and as he does so, he re-emerges comfortably in the lead here with a 19.25 second stationary stop. And for Dawson, I think that's the shortest stop that we've seen from any driver on the strategic stop today. He's got a 12-second gap to Paul Busby in P2, and right now the Effect Simulations Club Sport driver getting ready to lead home a 1-2 for what is Effect Simulations. But from him making his way underneath the gantry there, we do look to Alex Unschman and McCalson, who battling with Billy Bob Ray. Well, the Servant had a bit of a side-by-side only moments ago. They're fighting for overall position here with Billy Bob Ray P3 in the GTP AM class. You can understand why Ray wants to get past, and he has done so, because he wants to go hunting after Salvatore Guariento. And just to interdict that thought, when we talked about Collicott and Rice early in the GTP AM class, Rice has just set a new fastest lap of the GTP AM race, a 48.268. And he is closing on Collicott about a 10th a lap, but it's not enough given the number of laps remaining based on the time that we have on the clock and the predicted forecast. So right now Rice needs to find a bit more time if he wants to be in the fight with Collicott come the closing lap. And Billy Bob Ray only was 1.3 seconds off of the back of what is their Salvatore Guariento, who has a little bit of a rough time making his way past Steiner Sani, and that's cost Guariento an absolutely huge amount of time as they make their way through Curva Grande here. So Billy Bob Ray right now may just take a bit more inspiration from this, and he could have the runner-up spot on the cards here, given the fact that Guariento's advantage has been completely cut down to only what is 4.5 tenths. They make their way through Regina, and Ray then not wasting any opportunity to squeeze his way through. Meanwhile, battling side by side here for P9 in the GTP Pro class, it is Hill versus Cullen. Cullen on the right of your picture, and Hill on the outside there, letting the position go as they made their way on through the chicane of Ascari. And coming on out here, will Hill be able to find his way back versus Cullen on the run down towards Parabolica, where it looks so Hill there just tucking into the toe of Kukulis and then peeling on out, trying to get as much overspeed as possible. I think for Hill here, it may be that Cullen's a bit too quick in the day, so it looks though Cullen is just open that gap up as they make their way onto the next lap. The gap now up to 6 tenths, and what he will be in the toe and will close back up. I think for Hill, it may be about just watching, waiting, and going for an opportunity should one arise, should Cullen make an error. Although say that, I think Hill here giving it all the battery as they make their way down towards turn number 1. Gap there 3 tenths, but as they made their way to the braking zone and lift off, and that gap does stabilise around the half a second mark. But looking from them to a bit further behind as they make their way down in towards the video chicane themselves, and it's Brotner versus Moles. Moles goes on there, takes evasive action from the sausage curves, and Moles will hold track position, but Casper Brotner will now know that if he can keep the pressure up on Ryan Moles, that will give an opportunity to try and go for the move for P6 in the class right before this race ends today. And keeping in mind that Adrian Kukulis has been able to break away to a degree from Moles over the last couple of laps, particularly after Moles' incident into Ascari, and therefore Brotner now ready to man on the offensive. And we jump aboard here with the old cars trying Brotner there, makes his way through with Moles having to move aside there, and I think Moles decided to move aside knowing that he's not got a car to really go battling here, and now it's about damage limitation. as the next car trying to chase down Ryan Moles in the GT3 Pro Class will be Peter Cox, and Cox is 8 seconds off currently and well the time remaining. If Moles can keep up his current pace on average, he will be safe for Peter Cox to come the checkered flag. 10 minutes left on the clock, ladies and gentlemen, and we do look from them back to the battle of P2 in the GTP AM class. This is Guariento versus Ray as they come on through Ascari for what is the 31st time today, and as they come on around, well, meanwhile we've had what is a mistake. I think it's gone very wrong as Billy Bob Ray, who's pointing the wrong way. We're talking about a battle that's building up, and very quickly it's no longer building up. In fact, it's been knocked down, and Billy Bob Ray has been sent all the way down to P5. Now, what exactly happened to cause that we didn't quite see. I think we did see the Protect Motorsport Porsche, I think, of Ryan Moles going slightly wide out of the corner. Could that explain a bit of the story? Well, rather than hypothesise, let's find out with a replay. So into the braking zone they went. Ray looking up the inside, it coming from very far back, and Moles in the end being turned around as a result of it. We take a look back at that from the perspective of what was Ryan Moles, and here we go, ladies and gentlemen, in terms of from an alternative camera angle and onto the brakes, and in the end, well, I think as much as Ray wanted to get on through and Moles being sent off the road there, I think in the end Moles had the right to the apex based on the relative distances. I think that might have just been a bit of an eager call from Billy Bob Ray from what we've seen, and well, Moles will not be too happy now. He's had 2 incidents at Ascari with 2 GTPs separately, and they've both been incidents that have cost him very dear. But still, Ray and Moles carrying on, but definitely both feeling the wounds of the incidents there. As meanwhile, as Halgett looking up the inside back on our live pictures versus Marvin Cruz, and that's a P10, the G3 Pro Class there, smoothly up the inside. And what's been a difficult day today for the Norwegian, qualifying just not working out the pace, not being in the car. He's now taking some redeeming points here late on in the day. His next target will be Ryan Moles 7 seconds up the road, and Moles are a wounded car. I'm not sure if Ashpout will be aware of it currently. When he does find out, that may just give him a little more impetus to try and close that gap down in the time remaining, particularly should Moles need to consider potentially coming into the pits. And that's how at this time just making sure to keep Cruz behind him as they head in towards turn number 6. As they come on through the right-hander, Alex Hill into the pit lane once again. So the P10 GTP and the GTP Pro driver, it's been a difficult day for him, and Alex Hill now in the pits for the 2nd time today, and therefore that is a quick splash and dash, 3.6 seconds stationary time. Look at my commentary booth window in the data sheet. So Hill there potentially underfueling by a significant margin, and it cost him dear. Alternatively recognising just not got enough fuel to get to the end on the final lap, given the distance his race is going. And well, it wouldn't be the first time this season we have seen drivers have to do a quick splash and dash. And meanwhile, speaking of going all in on the brakes there, Rudy Avitson trying to make his way around at the outside of Alex Hill, and does do so. And the reason why that's important for Rudy Avitson, the race name Esports KTM driver, is the fact that his rival David Lawson is right in front of him. As you'll see Lawson very shortly, he's in the distance, but now he will be in the foreground of the picture for a brief moment. They're battling for the 3rd place spot on the GP and podium, and Avitson has been closing up very rapidly over the last couple of laps as the BMW driver makes his way out of turn number 5 and up towards 6, and therefore he did not want to lose sight of the Acura driver, as we did last time, and a ball run through Lesmo 1, and as they come in towards Lesmo 2 here, right now Avitson gets a good run, but look at Hill, you can see him on the top of your screen in the rear view mirror. He's very close, and I think Hill feels as though he's got the pace to come through. Hill's going to look to the outside here and go all the way around. You'll see him very shortly look around the outside. There he goes, and what Avitson backs off in the end. The race number Esports KTM driver recognising there's no point fighting Hill. He's only going to lose time to Larson, who is his main target or the main event, and therefore right now I think Avitson will be hoping that Hill can cost Larson some time and bring them back together. But meanwhile, as they make the one down, I'm sorry to announce, ladies and gents, we have had a retirement. In fact, we have had 2 retirements in this race, one for Rob Armstrong and one for Sam Congreve, and we do say hello to Sam in the Twitch chat there, who says, well, that was a brief return. I'm sorry to see it's gone very wrong for you today, Sam. Indeed, Monza does seem to be a circuit which just does not like you at this time, particularly when we've seen you race here the last couple of times, and hopefully those misfortunes will go away. But still at the same time, I think everybody will agree in terms of tuning in. It's been great to see you back on the grid and flying the Empire Motorsport colours high, and hopefully that can turn that frown slightly upside down for you, because we do miss seeing you on circuit. But we're also here, we don't want to miss any of the battle between Larson and Vinsland as they make their way on through Curva Grande. Still a hill between them, and this is one of the main battles in the closing stage of this race, as we still do have the best part of 6 minutes left on the clock plus that final lap. most of our battles now are starting to calm down, albeit I say that as Palk and Cruz here battling for P9, the GT3 Pro class, as that's Palk up the inside there, I believe going all in for the move. And getting it done, and that's Palk now to P9, another place gained. Late in the day with Ryan Moles, in fact, having to retire the car. We have had confirmation, ladies and gentlemen, a third retiree now of Ryan Moles and Protect Motorsports. So that's how actually under pressure here from Cruz, who's trying to come back. It was originally the battle for P10, and now it's the battle for P9 with Moles' retirement here, and with the number 13 driver right now for all the pace that Ferrari on the straight. He's got a very fast push behind him from Cruz in the corners, and it does mean it is a chalk and cheese battle here. One strength, one weakness, and the shoe is on the other foot with the other car. Great to see, of course, and that's what we love with these different manufacturers on the grid. But well, in the battle between Ray and Vincent for P4, well, with Billy Bob Ray having that instant with Moles, it's putting down a P5. He immediately gets P4 back there up the inside of Rudy Vitzland. It's next time we David Larson to try and target that P3 spot on the podium, and I don't think Larson's going to let it go here, in the fact that would be a huge result if he does take the podium in his championship campaign. You can see there Vincent pulling out of time in the rear of the picture versus Ray, making sure not to get the overspeed into the braking zone for Rizzofiglio. But meanwhile, we take a look back at how exactly Billy Bob Ray found his way up past the Vitzler. So it's in the run down towards turn number 11 here, and as we can see on the replay, Ray pulling out to the inside, Vincent in the middle of the road, negotiating the GT3 traffic there, Matt Edmondson, and as they made their way onto the brakes, Ray fully committed there, and Vincent tried to hold it around the outside, but in the end, with the natural circumference of the corner, it was only going one way, and that was the way of Ray, as they then made their way onto the start finish straight. As we return back to live racing here, well, we can see there David Larson almost running very wide, coming out of what was Lesmo 1. He knows the pressure's building from behind with Ray getting close. Oh, goodness me! And that's into the wall. I do believe the car of not Joshua Pratt. Well, goodness me, that was the car of Simon Hartley having a huge moment. I think some drivers around him will have had a scare there, seeing the TC Ferrari ricochet off of the wall and then come back onto the circuit, but thankfully nobody else collected as part of that. But Simon Hartley getting it wrong out of Lesmo 2. And we've seen a number of drivers in the GT3 class, including the man in the foreground of Harold Jatatis in qualifying, carrying too much speed through there on the rear end of the car, and the rear end just overdoing out as a result. Simon Hartley now under pressure from Matt Edmondson for P9, and as they make the way on through, well, Tim Cox media there talking about the fact there was contact with GTP. We didn't quite see that from the camera angle we had, although it could have been suggested there was a bit of contact there. We will try and get a replay of what exactly happened, and well, here is the replay of the incident, ladies and gentlemen. And coming out of the corner, well, it would suggest, and a good spot there from Tim Cox Media in the Twitch chat, contact with Billy Bob Ray's car by the looks of things from the camera angle we've just seen. So the TC Tower driver just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and feeling the consequences of it as a result. But as we return to the racing pictures here, ladies and gentlemen, Simon Hartley's race comes to an abrupt visit to the pits, an unscheduled stop, and well, this is absolutely going to hurt the TC Sport Tower driver in what was looking to be a resilient race today. But still, as Kukulas here in the tow versus what is Collicott. In fact, it's Collicott using the tow of Kukulas. We should get them the right way round. And as they make their way down towards turn number 1 here, well, Mark Collicott knows he doesn't need to pass Kukulas. That would only be for bragging rights to take a top 5 spot in the overall GT3 finishing positions. Because right now, Collicott is still the best part of what is 11.5 seconds clear of Nicholas Rice. In fact, he's opened that gap up, and I think it would seem as though Collicott feeling very comfortable in terms of his run in this race for is said and done here today, as Kukulas meanwhile looking to try and cement a top 5 in the GT3 Pro class. But meanwhile, looking from them, we look back here to David Larson, who now has the pressure of Billy Bob Ray looking around the outside. It's going to be 3 wide there with Lawrence Marsh for a brief moment, going into Parabolica, and Larson in the end just does not have the overspeed to stay ahead of Billy Bob Ray, as Billy Bob Ray takes P3 in the GTP and plus they made the way onto the next lap, charging across the line, and David Larson in the 306, I think just working on the points he can take for definite rather than the points that he may not be able to take here as they head down towards turn number 1. But on to the brakes and into the Rizzofiglio chicane that they go once again. Where is your race leader? I hear you ask. Well, he's just behind them as Andrew Dawson makes his way on through turns 1 and 2. He is on to what I do believe is the final lap of racing here today at Monza for the GTP category, and everyone else will finish behind him as a result. But Dawson right now on course to make it back-to-back wins, and what a result this is going to be for the 47 driver. But as he makes his way on through, meanwhile we do look from him to Lawrence Marsh, and Thomas Barjuk in the battle for P6 just outside the top 5 in the GT3 AM class, but they're all fighting for it as Barjuk trying to hold on in the Rexy machine versus the downforce racing push of Marsh. Behind them you do have Holders to Tartus, who is a lap up effective. And as they head in towards the Regia chicane, well, these two being some of the closest battlers on circuit for class. I'm going to stay with them for a degree now as they make the way on free. You see they're absolutely bouncing over the curve. Marsh wanting this so much. I thought it was a brilliant start to the season, and the pace has fallen off to a degree, but still plenty of rounds to go. 3 more rounds after this one, but Marsh right now on the attack. Meanwhile, Steinhoff Sani creeping his way past Niall Killen. I think Killen's got a problem with low on fuel. That car's going quite slowly, but meanwhile, one man right now who might be backing it off because he knows what's coming as he makes his way through the final corner. Well, as he does so there, ladies and gents, when the overlay disappears, but it reappears, and as Andrew Dawson comes to the timeline, it's going to be back-to-back wins for Effect Simulations Club Sport driver. Andrew Dawson takes the win in the end here at Monza in brilliant fashion in the GTP Oval and Pro categories, and it will be by what is 13.5 seconds over Paul Busby, who comes on through to make it an Effect Simulations 1-2 in the 420 car. And as he comes onto the line, it will then be Joe Newman who rounds off the podium for the GTP Pro class, and another solid drive to a third place finish. Meanwhile behind them, here comes Anders Meyer, ladies and gentlemen, to take his first win of the season in the GT3 Pro class. The BMW is victorious in the hands of the Racing Lab Esports Monza driver, and he will have behind him by 4 seconds at the finish line teammate Eric Roslev to make it in Racing Lab Esports 1-2 with Harold Statatas third place, and the Porsche fights on for the podium. But as he comes across the line, we've still got more drivers to come to the end of their respective races, and the next driver who will be coming on through to take what will be his checkered flag, well, I think they'll come together. But as he makes his way out to the final corner, it has been another dominant display from the AI Race Series DCW race driver Mark Collicott, and he makes it another win in his championship campaign in the number 5, a phenomenal drive. And behind him to take his first win of the season in the GTP AM category, give a round of applause for DY13 Racing's Ollie Pimley, who brings the Cadillac on through ahead of Salvatore Guariento, albeit between them is Nicholas Rice, the runner-up in the GT3 AM class, where strategy did not work out today for the Dirty Rice Racing driver, but still a podium, and he'll be pleased with that. Salvatore Guariento comes on through for that second place one in the GTP AM category, just ahead of what will be Billy Bob Ray in due time. Meanwhile, cross the line third place in the... Oh my goodness, and it's all gone wrong as they go across the line backwards. Noel Killing takes third place in the GT3 AM class, or at least on circuit. That may end up being something that goes to the stewards, but Steinar Sani and Killing to the line. We're going to need to get a replay of that. As you can see, Killing there in a moment. I'm getting flashbacks here to if anybody's watched Too Fast, Too Furious, a particular scene from that. But Killing and Sani coming across the line nose to tail there in the oddest of fashions, or nose to nose, if you will. And as a result, not quite sure what's happened there, but meanwhile, there's more drives to come on through. In fact, I think everybody has finished the race, and we can confirm Billy Bob Ray at third place in the GTP AM class. But meanwhile, the big question all of you will be asking, what exactly happened between Noel Killing and Steinar Sani right at the end there? And well, here's the replay, ladies and gentlemen, and let's find out. Was they made their way through the final corner, and side by side they went, and a bit of contact there, the tiniest bit of contact between the two of them, and Sani's car coming loose under the contact and Killing being collected on the return. As we do get the replay from on board there, made their way through the corner, building up the speed, and well, it looks like that might have been some netcode contact, which upset the balance of Sani's car, and in the end, Killing will be turned around across the line. It would have been a drag race to the line, and I think it would have been Sani's to win. Well, the stewards will definitely have a lot of work with regards to that one, and Killing just letting the car roll backwards in the end, and letting it gradually come to a halt. But the oddest end I have definitely seen to a race in my career as commentator, I can tell you that. But right now, that battle for P3 going all the way to the line. But as we look away from that replay, ladies and gentlemen, a brilliant race here at Monza. There was drama, there's brilliant battles on strategy and also on track, and let's take you through those race results subject to any stewards inquiries, and here we go. And as we can see, after 60 minutes of racing in round number 7 of the UK Sim Racing GT3-GTP Multiclass League Season 1 is brought to you on iRacing, available only live on twitch.tv/UK Sim Racing. Andrew Dawson making it 2 wins back-to-back after his dominance at Sebring, dominating today as well at Monza for Effect Simulations Club Sport. Clinical as they come, and I agree with you there, Tim Cox made it absolutely clinical from Dawson once again, with Paul Busby following in behind P2 there to make it an Effect Simulations 1-2. and Busby right now absolutely on top form there with regards to his championship campaign. Joe Newman fighting hard for a P3 finish there in the 97 for Empire Motorsport, holding on to the podium and spoiling the 1-2-3 that could have been for Effect Simulations. Josh Wilson just missed out on the podium there, but still bringing home another top 5 and great points there for the Effect Simulations primary team, and they'll be going very strongly now in the Teams Championship. Sam Sherwood P5 for ProTech Motorsport in a bit of a quiet race after he managed to find a way to break away from Austin William Campbell and Cy Anthony, but still he had to dig in deep to do so and take that top 5 ahead of Austin William Campbell, with a Symphony Esports driver ahead of the privateer of Cy Anthony by half a second at the end, and then Jonathan Hitchin fighting hard to a P8 finish in the Symphony Esports machine after a very difficult qualifying session. Ben Cullen, P9 for Effect Simulations, to complete the run of GTP Pro drivers before you come onto your GTP AM winner and round off the overall top 10 of Ollie Pimley for DY13 Racing, taking his first class win of the season. 8 seconds clear of Mural.io Salvatore Guariento, who did very well to take pole position, but in the end, Pimley had the race pace to counteract the Porsche 963 driver, but still Guariento will be very happy with the run-out spot and know the points are flowing ahead of Alexander Truna McCallison and Alex Hill. Billy Bob Ray, P14 there overall, and therefore your third place finisher in the GTP AM class to complete the GTP AM podium of Pimley, Guariento and Ray. And then as we now look further on down the order with regards to the drivers who finished laps down or more so in the GTP class, as we can see there, Darren Norquette, the sole GTP driver to finish the race, albeit a lap down in the GTP category, P18 for Racing Forces, and he precedes the GT3s for your overall GT3 winner, P19 overall, Anders Meyer there for RaceLab Esports Monza, also your GT3 Pro winner, head of Eric Rosa of RaceLab Esports 1-2 for the sister teams, and then Herodish Tatartus hold on for a third place finish, and the Over Limit Racing driver giving it everything, and in the end being rewarded with a spot on the GT3 Pro podium and the overall GT3 podium there in the Porsche 992. Joshua Pratt, P22, P4 in class for Tiki Simsport ahead of Adrian Kukulis, a short competition esports, and then Mark Collicott, P24 overall, the AI Race Series DCW racing driver, taking what was an absolutely deserved GT3 AM class win. And between him and runner-up Nicholas Rice, Casper Rotner there, P25, when we come to Nicholas Rice, the Dirty Rice racing driver, second place in the GT3 AM class, and strategy not working out for him today. Then looking on further down there, Pete Scott's finishing P27 ahead of Darren at Sharples, with Niall Killeen, your third place finisher on circuit at least. But again, I think there will be a microscope over the battle between Niall Killeen and Steinar Sani come at the finish line there, with them going round the finish line backwards. But Mural.io driver taking that third place spot on the GT3 AM podium. Lees covered the finish today ahead of Steinar Sani for RaceLab Esports Car X, and then James Connolly just missing out on a fourth place finish, but still taking a top 5 with P5 in the GT3 AM class, P31 for UK Sim Racing Hill. Having covered the podium finishes in each of the classes in relation to the overall standings, we now come on to our retirees, ladies and gentlemen. And out of our 45 starters today, we did have what were 3 retirees from the race. Starting P43 there, Ryan Moles for ProTech Motorsport, an unfortunate end to his race after what was looking to be a good top 5 finish, but in the end 2 major incidents cost him very dear for ProTech Motorsport. Sam Congreve, the Empire Motorsport driver, with that lap 1 incident cost him dear and not able to recover it from afterwards. And Rob Armstrong there for UK Sim Racing Bell as well, the car having to be retired prematurely, and that was due to a major incident which cost him in the midpoint of the race. But now we come on to the individual categories, starting with the GTP Pro class. And as we can see here, Andrew Dawson taking the win by 13.7 seconds for Effect Simulations Club Sport over sister team driver for Effect Simulations Paul Busby, the 47 ahead of the 420 today. So Dawson finally gets to that win that he missed out on at Le Mans versus Busby. So they won a piece out in their little inter-team battle, with Joe Newman taking third place there for Empire Motorsport, further 7 seconds behind and round off that podium. Joshua Wilson and Sam Sherwood completing the top 5 there, and another solid drive from Joshua Wilson. And much like what we heard from an interview earlier this season, I believe it was from, if my memory serves me correctly, Paul Busby, saying about the fact that whilst Joshua may not be on the pace of Busby and his colleagues, he's still delivering the consistency, and that pace is growing, and once again demonstrating that today. Sam Sherwood, meanwhile, round off that top 5, was followed up by the Symphonic driver of Austin William Campbell, who went strong in the early stages, but the pace did not stay with him to the very end. And then Cy Anthony, Jonathan Hitchin, Ben Cullen and Alexander Truna McCallison completing a top 10, with RaceLab Esports Moza drive being followed by Tiki Simsport Corpus Alex Hill, not to be his day today to try and sneak a top 5, north of Ryan Davis for Tiki Simsport, and then finishing a lap down at Darren Orkett for Racing Forces, and the sole retiree of Sam Congreve, 14 laps down when he retired. In the GTP AM category, As we can see, Ollie Pimley taking the win by 7.6 seconds for DY13 Racing in what is his first win of the season ahead of Salvatore Guariento. And indeed, it does seem as though wins in the GTP AM category continue to be apportioned out quite evenly. And I think that will mean this championship is going to go to the wire, with Billy Bobray there completing at the podium for Empire Motorsport behind the Mural.io driver. A further second and a half behind, David Larson for Symphony Esports, taking P4, head of Rudy Avitston for Racelab Esports KTM. And then we had 7 laps down at the finish, Aaron Beaver for UK Sim Racing Bell, ahead of teammate and retiree Rob Armstrong, whose today was not to be today. We then come to the GT3 Pro category. And here we can see Anders Mara taking the win by 4 seconds for Racelab Esports Monza ahead of teammate from KTM, Eric Rosev. And well, in the end, Mara absolutely managed this race. But to be fair, he was kept honest all the way by Eric Rosev and also by Haroldas Stratatis, the over-limit racing driver who pushed the Porsche to the limit today. And even over, I would say, and managed to wrangle a third place out of it, despite being 7.5 seconds down the top 2 come the finish. Joshua Pratt, meanwhile, further 10 seconds behind at P4 for TQ Simsport, his best performance of the season thus far, and still looking to carry on that momentum, looking for his first podium, head of Adrian Kukulas there for Short Competition Esports, and then Casper Brotner, Peter Cox, Darren Sharples, Thomas Aspaug, and Marvin Cruz completing the top 10, with that great little battle between Aspaug and Cruz come the finish for P9. Behind the old dudes in cars drive Cruz, Ryan Moles there, the sole retiree from ProTech Motorsport, 5 laps down, but we classified as a finisher as he did complete over half the race distance. And then lastly, coming to the GT3 AM class, and by no means least, Mark Collicott taking the win there by 14.5 seconds for AO Racing DCW Racing over Nicholas Rice, with a Dirty Rice racing driver throwing everything at it today, but still taking the second spot on the podium, and he'll be pleased with that ahead of Niall Killing, the Mural.io driver, just finished ahead of Steinar Sani for Racing Lab Esports Car X in the rather peculiar circumstances. James Conley completing the top 5 of UK Sim Racing Hill, and then finishing a lap down, Thomas Barjuk, P6, the privateer, ahead of Mark Johnson, with Matt Edmondson having a struggle of a day today in terms of the pace in the car, and Edmondson just not quite able to match the pace of the top 5, but still some rounds to go yet, and we could see a resurgence from the 176 driver, Lawrence Marsh P9, and then Simon Hartley completing the top 10, the TQ Simsport Tower driver being followed up by the wrong stuff's John Davies, and then Jack Barker P12 ahead of Christopher Bates, the RGV racing driver after batting for so long for a top 10 finish. An unfortunate incident towards the end cost him a top 10 and seeing him finish last in the class. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our run through of the class finishing positions, and very shortly we will be stepping away for what will be the preparation for our post-round interviews with our volunteer drivers. But if you have enjoyed the racing today, well, firstly, we do recommend that you make sure you follow us on Twitch, so that way you can stay up to date when all the latest broadcasts go live in this series and our other series, including the UK Sim Racing at Porsche Cup that runs on Thursdays. But we would also like to say, if you have been enjoying the racing today and wondered how you can support UK Sim Racing, did you know there is a quick way to do so via our affiliates? For we at UK Sim Racing are affiliated with multiple sim racing and real-world motorsport companies that do include, but are not limited to, Swilly Omega Sim Racing Coaching, Demon Tweaks, and also SRC Driver Academy. And if you head to our website, that's uksimracing.co.uk today, that website's going to appear on your screen in 3, 2, 1, and there it is in its full splendour. You'll notice there's a link to our Discord in the top right corner of our screen. And why would you want to click on that button? Well, firstly, to join the Discord means that you are eligible to take part in any UK Sim Racing event, whether it's a one-off event, alternatively a championship, because it is a mandatory requirement to be in our Discord to be on the grid for a UK Sim Racing series. But on top of that as well, is the fact that our affiliates, a number of them, do provide discount codes which are only available in the official UK Sim Racing Discord. And if you use one of those codes as part of your purchase, it puts you in pole position to receive a discount on your purchase, so it's a win for you. But also joining you on the winner's step will be the UK Sim Racing community, because we are a non-profit organisation at UK Sim Racing, which means that every kickback we get from your use of an affiliate code, we put that into the funding for future series at UK Sim Racing, including the GT3-GTP Multiclass, the GT3 League, the Porsche Cup, and plenty more we have planned for the remainder of this year and onwards into 2024. So do remember, a little purchase can go a long way in supporting UK Sim Racing. And right now, we're going to step away for a brief while in order to get ready for our post-round interviews and hear from our drivers. We'll be back in approximately 10 minutes' time, ladies and gentlemen, and don't go anywhere because you won't want to miss them. We'll see you shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back then for our post-round interviews. And today we've got one interview to conduct, and that will be with Niall Killian from Mural.io in the GT3 AM class. And we're going to be hearing from our third place finisher, who definitely had one of the toughest races out there in the GT3 AM class, batting his way from a P6 start, and in the end having a rather interesting, peculiar finish in what was a battle with Stein Arsani, which saw both of them cross the finish line in backwards order in the end, and Killian bringing on home the result, at least on circuit today. But just before we get the interview underway, we would like to apologise for a slight error we made right at the end of the race, announcing Anders Mara as a first-time winner in the GT3 Pro class, as it's been pointed out to me by a good number of our drivers. In fact, it was his third win of the season, having taken up wins earlier on the season as well. But still, we can't get everything perfect. We just wanted to correct that in case some of you were sat there right now thinking, haven't we seen Anders take wins in the GT3 Pro class multiple times? But still, before we jump back to that and continue to talk about that, let's come to our man of the day here in the interview room of Niall Killian, and as he joins me in the interview room now. Good evening to you, Niall. It was a tough race out there today from start to finish, and Monza was always going to be tough for the Porsche 992s. But it looks as though A, you enjoyed it out there, and B, you managed to wrangle what was an interesting third place finish come the end. Even without going backwards across the finish line, you were battling for the podium, and that Porsche was made to work hard.
Yeah, I think it's probably the first time I've finished in reverse. That's for sure. But yeah, no, the whole race was really fun. There was a lot of interesting battles going on, and then I jumped a few people in the pits as well, so that's always nice to see. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame it ended like that, but overall, really good race.
Oh, most definitely. And we'll come on to what happened at the end of the race last but not least. But before we get to all of that, let's talk a little bit about qualifying. Going into this, we heard down in the paddock from a number of drivers about the Porsche 992 and the GT3 class expected to really struggle here today at Monza, given its straight line speed deficit. Did you feel that was always going to be the case, or was it one of those days where you came into it thinking, you know what, head down, it's another day of racing, let's just see what happens starting with qualifying?
Yeah, I think you've got to be like that because you're stuck with that car now at this point of the season, so there's nothing you can really do about it. So you just got to try and extract as much time as you can out of it. And to be honest, I didn't really compare the cars too much before the race, so I wasn't entirely aware of the difference in speed between cars. But I felt I didn't do too bad considering.
Oh, indeed. And with regards to qualifying, of course, this circuit being one of those ones whereby, as we see in multiple real-world disciplines such as GT World Challenge and also Formula One, slipstream is key. Did you factor that in straight from the outset in your qualifying session, or did you think about sort of bringing it in where you could in the qualifying session?
I did two runs in qualifying, and the first set of runs I was fully focused on just doing it myself, more of like a banker than anything. And then I kind of came back into the pits, and then I was going to see where I was, and I just sort of happened to be behind a bunch of cars, so I kind of stuck in the slip about 1 second back. I can't remember who it was now, but so I kind of stuck behind them, and I think I improved on my first lap of my second stint doing that. So yeah, I did use it a bit, but if it didn't come to me, I wasn't going to do it. But luckily, the situation arose.
Well, that's absolutely fair. And in the end, taking P6 on the grid going into the race in what was quite a close qualifying session for the midfield of the GT3 AM class. And just to put that in perspective then, seeing yourself line up only what was a 10th off of James Conley, who started in front of you. Going into the race, it's all to play for, and of course, Monza turn one. Did you have a particular strategy in mind for the opening couple of laps in terms of places you wanted to gain, or whether just to try to hold position?
I always like to get into a rhythm because I feel like, especially with so many cars around, it's can be difficult if you don't kind of settle yourself early. Um, I did kind of luck out right at the start. There was, I think there was 2x2 on the outside, and I somehow managed to find a gap on the inside, and I jumped a couple cars there. So it was kind of like it felt a bit like it shouldn't be happening, but yeah, I managed to slip my car into a position that I wouldn't usually expect to be in on lap one.
I see. And then going onwards from lap one and into the subsequent laps, as the racing went on, we saw you start to make some early gains. Was that the progress you expected to make, or was it a little bit of surprise given the fact we did see quite a good portion of the GT3, whether it was the Pro or the M class? It was almost as if we had the Ferraris and the BMWs breakaway at the front, and then a whole pack of Porsches coming together, and then you seemed to be the anomaly that was just making progress.
I think I stuck onto the back of a couple of the guys in the faster cars, so that definitely helped. And obviously, I had there was a guy behind me, Sharples, who kind of stuck with me the entire race. So I think he was in the Porsche as well. Yeah, so he kind of stuck with me, and I stuck with the guys in the Ferraris and BMWs ahead of me. But yeah, the slipstream definitely helped the Porsche today.
Slipstream proved useful, and I have to ask, using the slipstream, we normally see it as a tactic used by drivers to save some fuel by lifting and coasting into the braking zones. I presume you may not have been able to do that because you needed the slipstream and the top speed to keep you in the hunt?
Yeah, no, there was absolutely no saving today. I was going for it, I think.
Well, we always love to hear that. And coming on to the strategy itself, did you, when we saw you come into the pits, was that a lap you always intended to, or did you decide to adjust your strategy? Because we saw a number of drivers in your class, such as Nicholas Rice, go for a very early pit stop, and it didn't pay off necessarily, depend on how the traffic factored in.
I was kind of trying to stick with people that I was driving with before the pits, like a few laps before. I noticed a couple of guys jump into the pits quite early, actually, and I was quite surprised by that. But the guys who I was battling with mostly stayed out. So I think it was more if the guy directly in front of me pitted, I might have considered it because once that slip's gone, you're really at a disadvantage. But he stayed out one lap longer than me, actually, so I was able to go in when I intended to.
So it worked out quite comfortably for yourself, and that's good to hear. And then going racing towards the end, we saw yourself and Steinar Sonny getting very close in the closing stage of the race. Originally, it was you running in P3, then Steiner comes along, and quite the scrap starts to kick off.
Yeah, so I actually started the lap before. I was, as I mentioned before, I was racing Sharples the entire race, and we had a little coming together at the last turn, and I actually spun from that. So that's how I was caught up in the first place. And then obviously I was behind him for the entire last lap, and I caught him right at the end. But yeah, it was a bit of an unfortunate coming together. I feel like there might have been a little bit of netcode involved there, but it's hard to tell really. I was It's a weird corner because it kind of goes onto the straight, but it curves at the same time. So there are multiple lines through there, and I guess I maybe anticipated it a little bit wrong, but it was a bit of an awkward contact. So, and yeah, I mean, I didn't really want it to end like that, but
Well, may not have been the way you wanted to end it, but at the same time, on a brighter note, you can definitely take the accolade. It's probably the most stylish P3 finish we've ever seen here at UK Sim Racing.
that's for sure.
And on top of that as well, besides the contact, which did look to, like you say, be netcode contact from what we could see here, a great battle all the way through. And I have to ask, now that we're going into our second mid-season break, how do you feel your championship has progressed so far, given the fact you joined a couple of rounds in alongside your teammate Salvatore Goriento, and you find yourself currently provisionally on the standings, running in what is P13, albeit you've got a few zero scores in there as well. How's your season been?
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, obviously, I joined late. The first race I did was Watkins Glen, and I think I got wrecked twice, so that wasn't a good start. But then I did Le Mans, and that was a good one, chasing down P1 at the end. But I feel like because I've never driven this car or GT3 in a long time, so it's more about getting used to it really, and learning the car as I sort of progress the season. But I feel like each week I'm getting better and better in it, so just kind of see where I can go from here to the end of the season, really.
Well, indeed, and we've got 3 rounds of racing left to go when we do return after the mid-season break, and those do include the Red Bull Ring, Daytona and Silverstone. Are there any of those rounds where we should watch out for you to be on top for?
Well, I don't want to put any pressure on myself, but I am quite a big fan of Silverstone, so we'll see how that one goes.
Oh, brilliant. Well, just in time for the season finale. We look forward to that, plus also the other upcoming rounds. Speaking of which, how are you feeling for the Red Bull Ring?
I haven't driven it in a while, to be fair, but it's despite the little corners, it's actually quite a difficult track to get right lap after lap because it's such a short track as well. And I imagine the traffic in that with the GTPs is going to be an interesting one. But yeah, once that comes along, get some practice in and see how we go. So.
Oh, indeed. We look forward to seeing how you do at the Red Bull Ring. Well, just before we do let you go, Noel, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Well, I think Salvatore gave me a shout out when he did an interview a couple of weeks ago, so I will give the shout out straight back to him, and hopefully we can keep progressing up the standings before the end of the season.
Oh, absolutely fantastic. I do love the atmosphere within the Mural.io team. Well, with that, Noel, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview room. Congratulations once again on what was a great battle through to third place in the GT3 AM class. Enjoy the mid-season break, and we look forward to seeing you back on circuit in 2 weeks' time when we head to the Red Bull Ring.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So hearing there from Noel Killen in the GT3 AM class, the Mural.io driver really having what has been a bit of an interesting day today, even when you put aside what occurred in the final stage of this race. In the fact, in qualifying, pushing hard for what was a P6 position in class of the qualifying session, and talking about there the fact that naturally trying to find a way to bring Slipstream into that qualifying lap, and knowing the run on what was the Porsche Line 2 was always going to be a bit of an uphill battle given the relative pace, but also saying they're not really studying the balance of performance between the cars there, so approaching with quite an open mind going into the qualifying session, and I think that might have aided him there in the fact of taking the laps as he went, and then going into the race, a clean lap 1 at Monza, we always love to see that, and that really enabled him to start to put the hammer down and go on the offensive and battling his way through the order, and talking about being in a back and forth versus what was Darren Sharples for the majority of the race, the GT3 Pro driver. But then an unfortunate incident towards the end that put him on the path to be battling with Stein Arsani. And well, we saw how it all unfolded after that with that rather interesting little bit of netcode contact as they made their way out the final corner to the checker flag. But it was a third place in reverse as he crossed the line, and was still a good reflection as well on the fact that whilst he's joined late and had a couple of rounds that haven't gone his way, including what happened at Watkins Glen, he's starting to come together and really starting to refresh himself with the feeling of the GT3 machine, and therefore we've got plenty more to look forward to from Noel Killen. And he set himself up for what is something we're going to look out for at Silverstone. There's no doubt about that in the season finale, but at the same time we'll be eagerly awaiting his return to the grid at the Red Bull Ring in 2 weeks' time, and whether he can continue this run of top fives, if not podiums, as he makes his way into the final 3 rounds of the season. Now, before we go to the end of our interviews, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to say we have another interview lined up now, and that's going to be in the form of Matt Edmondson for UK Sim Racing Hill. He's offered to volunteer his time, and we're going to oblige absolutely in what's been a difficult day today for Matt Edmondson. Unfortunately for him, it does seem as though results have not gone his way, but he now gets ready to join me in the interview room. We're going to be hearing the story from the man who put it on P3 in the GT3 AM class, only for it to then start to go the wrong way as the race got underway. And well, as he joins me in the interview, good evening to you, Matt. It's been a tough day from yourself today. Qualifying, it looked great on paper, a P3 in class, P33 overall. But then the race, it just didn't seem to be there. A P8 finish in the end in class. What happened out there?
It was an absolute mess from me. It was started off great, first couple of laps, and then I got a slight slowdown off turning in to the first chicane, so I dropped a little bit back, and then when the GTPs came round, slightly misjudged due to having sort of one half up the inside and tagged very slightly, like a 0x nudge on the back of another one, which apparently then just destroyed the front of the car. I hadn't quite, and then I had no, absolutely no speed after that. Then when I did go to the pit lane, I then, for some reason, panicked, missed the pit box, so then had to do another lap to go back in to fix the damage. So I pretty much went into the pits 3 times in there, so lost about a minute based off that alone. So really, it was, if I hadn't have, had that, then we might have held on and had a decent run of it, especially seeing how not far behind some of the guys I was towards the end, it seemed like some others had some issues as well. So it could have been a good chance to try and claw back some points, but in the end, it was another one to add to this run of 4 races of pretty mediocre results, to be honest.
Oh, goodness me. It is a shame, and I'm sorry to hear that, but still, at the same time, let's talk about some of the positives of your day, starting with that P3 in qualifying. A great lap from yourself, and whilst we were always expecting the BMW M4s to be right up there, you only showed as well the Ferrari can be up there, and it looked as though it was a lap to be proud of.
It's the best lap I've managed to put together, to be honest. Here, I've never, similar to places like Spa and Monza, I've not been very good with low downforce tracks. I just can't seem to quite get the drive out of corners. So I was fairly happy with that. I think there was a little bit more in it, but I misjudged a gap to Darren in qualifying, so I kind of impeded myself. Really, I should have left a bit more of a gap because I was probably another half a second up on what I actually did, but that could have been from the slipstream. So, but yeah, I was surprised to be P3 and have Collicott starting behind. He's like been mega quick, and I think he just had a bad quali himself. So it was certainly interesting to have both him and Marsh behind, because they were at the time sort of the main rivals to go up. So
And I have to ask in the qualifying session, because as you say, many did seem to qualify to a degree out of place. Did you find that as the qualifying session went on, the lap times were starting to come down? Because we did see track temperature fall quite severely over the 15 minutes of the GT3 session.
I think it did. I don't think it dropped too hard in comparison to like getting a really quicker lap, but I think if you were out at the end of the session, were able to pick up like a toe in the right places, you could get a fair bit of extra time. But I was on a final lap that was up on what I was doing again on that last run, and then just absolutely binned it not long towards the end of the lap trying to chase it. So I was still surprised to come where I was, but I think the conditions were certainly getting better towards the end, and I think that's it's something to like add into the strategy with open qualifying, because being rubbered in from GTP qualifying and then sort of sometimes at the end of the session the track can be the best that it is, so you've got to try and time it right to get across the line before the 0 seconds. So.
Oh, indeed. And going from qualifying into the race, of course, you mentioned how it didn't quite work out in the early stages. We see the pictures of your somewhat wounded Ferrari now back and fully repaired, making its way back up to speed. But did you come into the race with a particular strategy in mind before it all started to go the wrong way?
I was going to just try and keep in the train and then pit at a point where I wouldn't come out with like the lead GTPs or in a gaggle of the GTPs coming through. I've been fairly successful at that in previous rounds, but then having to do 2 pit stops kind of threw that into the air. So I think if I've had looking at where people finished, if I'd have managed to pull it off, I reckon I would have been backward, like up towards the podium kind of area. But that's all what ifs rather than what actually happened. So.
Indeed, it might have been what ifs, but still, with the hand of cards you were dealt in with what went wrong, getting back into the racing in the late stages, and we did see you make some progress, picking off along the way the likes of championship rival Lawrence Marsh, a degree of retribution, if you will, saying to put a smile on your face despite it not quite being the way you wanted it to go today.
I'm pretty sure Lawrence ran out of fuel at the end because he was crawling towards the line. Like I reckon that the race had gone an extra lap in comparison to what some people had thought. So I think he ran out of fuel. So that was a little bit of sort of retribution or happy like towards that, but unfortunately his drop scores that he had before that means that is now in play because it was a hire does mean that he's actually opened up the gap to me because of my really poor run. So, I mean, it's all the little things, but it could have if I'd a. It's a lot of sort of what ifs from this race, but then again, so has been the last few. Like ever since the first season break, it's just not gone well for me at all. So.
Well, it may not have gone well since the first mid-season break, but we do have a second mid-season break coming up as of the conclusion of today. 2 weeks from now, we return with 3 more rounds of racing. How are you feeling going into those final 3 rounds, knowing there's still a championship to play for?
Well, I think it's an outside chance. Like a very I think it's some better sort of circuits for me for the last 3 rounds. I think Red Bull's going to be an interesting one because the off tracks there are really harsh. It's a very fast lap, so the GTPs are going to be on you like all the time. So that's going to be a really interesting one to try and deal with strategy wise. Daytona's always a good one. Like the 24 here at Daytona is always a great race, so I'm expecting that one to be a good one. I think realistically, my best chance is probably going to be third because, like, Collicott and even now Nicholas Rice, like, he had some unfortunate incidents at the start of the season, and then since then he's been turning in the results. So I think those two are going to have quite the battle towards the end, although Mark's got a bit of a gap. So if I can sort of get up towards sticking up towards top 5, and to be fair, if you'd have told me last season that that's where I'd be, I would have at one point led the championship for about 3 or 4 rounds and still be having a fighting chance. I'd have bit your hand off because this is probably one of the better seasons I've had in a long time. So.
Indeed, there are always positives to take away from it, Matt. And like you say, leading in the early stages and still, given the fact you always approach every round of racing with a great degree of enthusiasm, we look forward to seeing whether you can try and bring back that form of old from the start of the season and perhaps even have that charge to a top 3 finish in the championship when all is said and done. And with the Red Bull Ring coming up, of course, as you mentioned there, it's definitely going to be an interesting one with regards to the multi-class racing. Wish you all the best in your preparations for it. And as we just get ready to let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
As always, yourself for fantastic broadcasts week in, week out with both this the P Cup, all the admins who organise everything, all the stewards that put in a lot of their own time to get through the protests each week, all the teammates at the UKSR teams, and just the community for being a fun group of people.
Well, Matt, it's been absolutely brilliant to have you join me in at the interview as always. Sorry to hear it didn't quite go the way you wanted it to today, but still, plenty of racing to come, and we look forward to seeing you putting your best foot forward when we return in 2 weeks' time at the Red Bull Ring. But until then, thank you very much for taking your time out this evening. Well done on bringing the car home in P8, and we look forward to plenty more from you. But also, make sure to have a good rest during the break.
Cheers, Paul. I'll see you soon.
So hearing it there from Matt Edmondson, to a degree down and dejected, but you can understand why, in the fact it has been a difficult day today. After P3 in qualifying in a well-managed qualifying session where he felt as though the pace was coming, and interesting now, observing the same as what we thought was coming with regards to that pace in qualifying really building up towards the end with track temperature depreciating quite rapidly. Not quite able to deliver that extra lap, which could have seen him take P2 in the class with what was Nicholas Rice running away with that pole position, but still going into the race, it was all for naught after a couple of laps. And then with the moment we got it wrong in the pits when he needed to bring the car into the pit box for repair, losing a huge amount of time. But still, the Ferrari driver got his head down, and then he ended up brought home a P8 finish, fought his way on through. and to bring home that position. And when all was said and done, well, it's a result. It's not the result he wanted or was targeted today, but still it's some good points, and with 3 rounds of racing to go and an outside chance of the championship, but feeling his chances perhaps for a revival into the top 3, you never know what can happen indeed. It's all in the lap of the racing gods, just as much as it is in the dedication and practice that you as a racing driver put in. And Matt, just as much as many will know that, and particularly commenting on the fact the results not going the way of, say, Mark Collicott and Nicholas Rice in the opening stage of the season. They seem to have found their form, and meanwhile other drivers such as Matt himself perhaps not finding their form in this midpoint, and it always ebbs and flows in the racing. And could we see him revive his form come round number 8 at the Red Bull Ring? We'll be hoping for that, because we want to see the UK Sim Racing Hill driver right up there battling for the greatest of the spoils. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that will conclude our post-round interviews with our drivers. And you did hear from 2 drivers today, both from the GT3 AM class of, firstly, Noel Killen from Mural.io, our 3rd place finisher, and then our 8th place finisher, Matt Edmondson for UK Sim Racing Hill. Thank you to both of them for joining me in the interview room today, and congratulations to them on their race results. And we look forward to seeing plenty more from them in a couple of weeks' time when we do return to the racing. Now, what that does mean, of course, ladies and gentlemen, is it's now time for us to give you an update on the championship standings, provisionally, of course, subject to any stewards' inquiries after today, before we go into that mid-season break. And so, after 7 rounds of racing in the UK Sim Racing GT3-GTP Multiclass League Season 1, we started with the GTP Pro Drivers' Championship standings, and as we can see, well, a week of racing continues to make a sizable difference, and it is now Joshua Wilson and Austin William Campbell who are tied at the top on 168 points, and indeed it is result count back that leads to Wilson leading the way. But as they continue to charge their way through the season, it does look as though they are inseparable at the top, and will both drivers right now eager to leave their mark. But it would be rude of us not to also include, as we say hello to Joshua Wilson there in the Twitch chat as he waves hello, and also we say hello to Ryan Moulds. We can see that one driver also saying hello in terms of looking to encroach upon the top 2, Paul Busby for Effect Simulations, we're only 4 points behind. But then again, if we include him in this consideration, we must also look at Cy Anstey, a further 3 points off, and Alex Hill, another 3 points off. And when you only have 10 points separated the top 5, you are on for a dream championship here as a spectator, and any one of these drivers could be leading over the remaining 3 rounds. But still, let's not rule out Ben Cullen from Effect Simulations in P6 on 152 points. Results may not have gone his way over the last couple of rounds he's participated in, but still, he's got an outside chance there, as has Sam Shewer from ProTech Motorsport, and then Alexander Truman of Carlson in P8 for Racelab Esports Monza, a further 4 points behind on 146, finds himself in a bit of a deadlock battle versus Ryan Davies and Joe Newman for that P8 spot there, with the Empire Motorsport driver of Newman being the one that many will be keeping their eyes on, because whilst he does have a 0 score that cannot be dropped from Fuji, he could still potentially take some wins and podiums that could scupper many a driver's championship crown aspirations. Andrew Dawson at P11, now 2-time winner after today, making it back-to-back perfect scores. He moves into P11 there for Effect Simulations Club Sport, ahead of Daryl Norquette, with Joffel Hitchin, Alistair Kirk, Matt Strand and Sam Congreve completing the standings. We then come on to the GTP AM category, and here we can see the complexion. Well, at the very top, it's very similar to the GTP Pro class. We have David Larson, who leads by 2 points for Symphony Esports. He's only ahead of Salvo Guanzio by a small margin, and the Mural.io driver will be giving a hot pursuit. We then have a sizable 8-point gap to Rudy Avitson for Racelab Esports KTM, who finds himself in a locked-up battle with Rob Armstrong, Billy Bob Ray, and Aaron Beaver for the 3rd place spot. And it seems as though right now Larson and Guariento are trying to pull the battle away from themselves, but could we see the likes of Avitson or Armstrong bring themselves back into that fight? They only need one result to go their way in order to make it happen. Outside that top 6, we have David Rolliston at P7 for Tiger Racing Team, not on the grid today and using today as a drop score, with John Doe also missed out this week for Tiki Sport Corpa. And then Auden Hegeseta and Brandon Hay completing your top 10, with Ollie Pimley at P11, with his win today moving into the 11th place spot, best of the rest, ahead of Richard Jones, James Foster and Paul Joseph Clist. We then come on to the GT3 Pro standings, and here we can see it is all about the battle for the top, but Herodas Jatatas has extended his lead even further, now standing at 32 points. The big question is, can anybody stop the over limit racing driver or push him over the limit? And I would say currently no, it looks like he's becoming the firm favourite when those drop scores are considered. Adrian Kukulis, meanwhile, in P2 for Short Competition Esports. The pressure is building on him with the fact he's only 1 point clear of Eric Rosev with Anders Meyer a further 6 points behind there after his win today, and Joshua Pratt now P5 for Tiki Simsport with a great result there, and that continued string of results moving him into the top 5, and he'll be looking to try and hold on ahead of the likes of Peter Cox, who only sits a further 2 off. The UK Sim Racing Hill driver stands 12 clear of Casper Brotner, with Hackle Gestad from Ignium Motorsport in P8, having missed today and therefore be classifying it as a drop score. But keep in mind, he also has a 0 score that stays with him to the end of the season. So Ignium Motorsport driver now ineligible to try and compete for the win in the championship, but he'd like to return to the top 5, most definitely, if not the top 3. Now, Chris Kirtland and Ryan Moles completing the top 10. Darren Sharple's just outside the top 10 by a single point versus Ryan Moles, with the UK Sim Racing Mansell driver still looking for a huge result to bring about what was his good result earlier in the season, with Marvin Cruz P12 ahead of Aaron Vergawe, and then Thomas Aspaug and Chris Constable complete your top 15. Daniel Pace P16 ahead of Reece Saunders, with Kerry Kukorin, John Watt and Martin Tinning completing your top 20, and then last but not least, John Maloney at P21 for Mowgli, racing on 10 points. But then we come in our Drivers' Championships to the last but not least, the AM class. And as we can see on here on screen, ladies and gentlemen, Mark Collicott for AI Racing Meets DCW Racing continues to lead, and that advantage now up to 25 points with his win today. And whilst qualifying didn't work out his way, and therefore he hasn't picked up a perfect score, he'll feel as though it's as close as possible to perfection that he needs in order to try and stay one step ahead of Nicholas Rice, who, whilst he may be 25 points behind, will still definitely be believing for Dirty Rice Racing that he could be the one to steal that crown away from Collicott. Meanwhile, further 2 points off, Lawrence Marshall Downforce Racing. Keep in mind there, the Downforce Racing driver still in the hunt for that second place spot, with the results not going his way today. So today was a drop score, as it will now be classified. But then Mark Johnson a further 5 behind for UK Sim Racing Mansell. He may not be capturing all the headlines, the 44 driver, but he's definitely capturing the points there and staying in with a shot of the top 3 of this championship. James Connie, P5 there for UK Sim Racing Hill, a further point off. And again, another major name who could definitely take results and therefore play a key factor in that battle for the top 3, and also potentially bring some parity to Collicott and Rice as this season winds down to its conclusion. With Steinal Sunny not on the pace today for Race Lab Esports Car X, and the 159 points he's been able to accrue so far means he's just outside the top 5, 3 points off of James Conley, and only 1 point clear of Matt Edmondson, who we heard from earlier, advancing his chances now of finishing P3 in the championship for UK Sim Racing Hill, but another 26 points, not to be his result today, but still he'll stake the points because they keep him ahead of Thomas Barjuk, who in P8 is ahead of John Davis by only 14 points, and Cy Hartley completes your top 10. Satinder Deanser not on the grid today, P11 best of rest for Tiki Sport Tour behind his teammate of Hartley, with Tiki Sport's Andy Skinner P12 ahead of Noel Killen, and then Jack Barker and Chris Bates complete your top 15, with the RGV Racing drive being followed up by Shaminder Deanser, Ivan Breivik, Neil Smith and BJ Alvarez. Now lastly, coming on to the team's championship standings, and well, ladies and gentlemen, you may recall that at the top of the GTP Pro category, we got to see joint points between what were the drivers of Joshua Wilson for Effect Simulations and Austin William Campbell for Symphony Esports. We'll look at this at the top of the top 20 of the team's championship standings. It is dead heat, 337 points apiece for Symphony Esports and Effect Simulations. The drivers absolutely equal right now in terms of their team's contributions, and therefore it could go either which way. But keep in mind, UK Sim Racing Hill a further 13 points behind. They're also well within this fight as well, and looking to take points off of the top 2 and get themselves into that battle, with Race Lab Esports Monza and Race Lab Esports KTM, the 2 sister teams, wrapping up the top 5 there. UK Sim Racing Mansell, meanwhile, a further 8 points behind. You can imagine the Race Lab Esports teams will try to work together, albeit there'll be a little bit of inter-team rivalry to try and finish P4 or higher ahead of the other. They've got to be wary of UK Sim Racing Mansell and also UK Sim Racing Bell being right after them, with 10 points to Empire Motorsport in P8 for UK Sim Racing Bell, and then Tiki Sim Sport Corporate and Tiki Sim Sport completing your top 10. Outside the top 10 in P11, it's Downforce Racing, best of rest by only 3 points over TT Sim Sport. Don't rule them out for a top 5 charge come later into the season, with Racing Lab Esports Car X P12 ahead of ProTech Motorsport, and then Mural.io and Shore Competition Esports wrapping up the top 15. And then behind Shore Competition Esports by 4 points, Old Dudes in Cars, with their AI Race Series DCW Racing, Tiki Sim Sport Tower, Over Limit Racing, and Dirty Rice Racing completing your top 20. And falling back outside the top 20 today, it's a P21 Ignium Motorsport. They're 35 points off on 135, trying to chase down Dirty Rice Racing, and we expect them to be back in full force as of the next round. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know more about UK sim racing as a community, or perhaps you want to be on the grid for one of our future races or a race series, or plenty more you want to find out about us, well, the first place to go to is our official website. That's at uksimracing.co.uk. You saw the website earlier on in today's broadcast, and we do recommend you check it out as it is the #1 source of information for all things UK sim racing. But if you're more of a social media person, then the best place to go to is our official Twitter. That's twitter.com/UK sim racing_, where you can stay up to date with all the latest headline information at UK Sim Racing, whether it be broadcast, series, alternatively the trials and tribulations of the official UK Sim Racing esports teams. We'd also like to take this moment to say a big thank you to our affiliates, who do include Swelly Omeda Sim Racing Coaching, the creator of the Motor Racing Checklist. Swelly Omeda Sim Racing Coaching can help take your sim racing driving to the next level. Whether you're looking to gain a 10th, improve your approach to the racing line, or develop your consistency, Swelly Omeda has a coaching course to meet your needs. Plus, with Swelly being a multi-time champion of official iRacing series, which do include the 2021 PSCC, you know you're receiving coaching from the very best in the industry. Race anywhere? The provider of curated sim racing equipment aimed to only stock products that represent excellent value for the sim racing community. We also have Demon Tweaks, the provider of the most complete and innovative motorsport product range available worldwide. So no matter what your level or discipline, Demon Tweaks could help drive you to realise your motorsport ambitions. SimLab, the leading manufacturer of high quality sim racing related hardware. As a proud partner of Mercedes AMG Petronas Esports, SimLab aims to enhance virtual racing experiences with uncompromising solutions that push the boundaries of esports and make SimLab the go-to brand for quality sim racing rigs. Amazon, the company striving to be the Earth's most customer-centric company, the Earth's best employer, and the Earth's safest place to work, through the provision of concepts pioneered by Amazon, which do include but not limited to one-click shopping, Amazon Web Services, and Amazon Alexa. And lastly, SRC Driver Academy, a division of Sim Racing Community. Elevate your sim racing skills with SRC Driver Academy. Their team of experienced professionals is dedicated to helping you reach your full potential without compromising on quality. But why choose SRC? Affordable quality coaching. They have experienced coaches who provide valuable insights and a competitive edge, and they make high quality coaching accessible to all at an affordable cost tailored to your needs and goals. You can learn race strategies, precision driving, and much more, and they offer virtual coaching sessions at nearly all hours of the day, every day, ensuring flexibility for all. So join SRC Driver Academy today and unlock your true sim racing potential. Visit their website to learn more and accelerate your sim racing career. Well, whilst we may be talking about accelerating careers with SRC Driver Academy, ladies and gentlemen, we're now going to decelerate the pace to a degree for our mid-season break. But don't worry, it's not over yet. We've got 3 more rounds of racing to come when we return, and save the date, ladies and gentlemen. That's Sunday, the 19th of November, 2023. 2 weeks from now, we go back to the racing once again for our last charge onto the breach of what is the conclusion of the GT3-GTP League Season 1 here at UK Sim Racing, and it all begins in Austria with round 8 to 10 at the Red Bull Ring. Plenty of straights and sweeping corners await our drivers as they make their way into the Spielberg region circuit, but multi-class racing always been unpredictable. Who will come out on top? Will we see the drivers who have taken the momentum into the mid-season break today carry that momentum forward, or will we see some of the drivers who didn't quite get it right at Monza bounce back immediately? Will all that more be found out then? But until then, we've been UK Sim Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, as always, remember to stay on track. Good night.